YouTube, it is I, Shaggy. I am Philolitea. I don't love it the way this looks, but we can get me an external, what do they call webcam. If I can generate a little bit of money at this, so I can just put that up as a goal in our hearts once I can feed myself again. Thank you for being here. I am going to play some more Wizardry. We are going to continue with the RPG Legacy series. Oof. And for now, I am listening to Rich Eisen. Oh, I gotta turn my controller on if I want it to make it work. It is cold. I woke up today. Whew, it was 0 degrees, and it felt like it. There was a moment as I was falling asleep that I was genuinely concerned that I was going to wake up to not being able to feel my toes. But I was fine. What I woke up to instead was Lucas, my mouse buddy, climbing around on my fucking head, making a goddamn racket. And so I woke up and I yelled at him. We're going to turn the map on from the beginning. And then I lay there and I talked to Gemini for a while to get my brain going. And then I realized I'm starting to get really cold, actually. So I got up and left, and as I was leaving, I noticed that I got a visitor sometime during the night. The raccoon that I have seen around came and left handprints on my tent. And so I need him to stay out of my tent, please. I really need him to not decide to destroy my tent to get inside it, because I'm sure I could replace it. I'm sure that if worse came to worse and I said, hey, YouTube, or really, Mr. S, my tent has been destroyed, please help me replace it, that would happen. But I am really not trying to ask for that kind of intervention. I don't have any food in my tent. I have a bag of caramel popcorn and like a sleeve of pepperoni. If he can smell those things, they've been there for... The pepperoni's been there since Christmas. So I don't think he's interested in those. What happened is I got an order. I got takeout from Wingstop the other night, and they gave me more wings, more chicken fingers than I ordered. And so what I did is I tossed them out for the animals in the area. That's not sexy. They gave me more fingers than I ordered, so I stuck them outside my tent. And over the course of the last 3 nights, he has come and got them. And so he probably came last night and basically just stuck his little hands on the thing like, hast thou more, sire? that delicious chicken? No, man, I don't have any more of that delicious chicken. I could. Can't afford it. I feel good about the choice, but the result is what I get. I really just need to get another pair of socks. I will eventually set it up so that I can see the live chat. I haven't had anybody stop through and engage in the live chat in days, so I may not. Alright, here we go. This isn't even the party I meant to build. I'm actually gonna... No, we'll go until I lose somebody, but this isn't the party I meant to compose. Look, the DPS loss of carrying a thief, I'm just gonna have to suffer through. thing. If I can get my fucking YouTube to cooperate with me here. There we go. I'm gonna revisit an argument that I made once before. See what I learned from it. I found myself thinking the last couple of days obsessively about video games. And then I realized this morning I don't need to think obsessively about video games, or in my case, not think about video games. I can talk about them. To myself, right here, because no one can tell me what I can or can't talk about, and this is ostensibly a video game channel. So, I have been seeing going around, I believe the space is called X now. I don't know if you would call it a meme, but I've been seeing I guess it's a starter for conversation asking if Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece are the big three of anime. What are the big three of JRPGs? And I see a lot of people include in the big three both Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy. And I've been thinking obsessively on this topic because I'm not sure that can be right. And so I've been trying to think in my head what the big three mean. And so I looked prior to sitting down here after knowing exactly what I was going to be talking about. I did a modicum of research and I looked, and the oldest of those three, One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach, is, I believe, One Piece at 1997. Okay, so if we're talking big threes, and our big three was started in 97, it's hard for me to include two titles that are also from the 80s in Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. But that's not what I think should disqualify one or the other of them. It's not even that they're both from Square, because they were both Squaresoft titles. They weren't a Square and an Enix title. And so part of me wants to say, okay, well, one of them has to be disqualified, and you have to have an Enix title, because you can't have, like, I think what I most take umbrage with, and what I actually sat down to start talking about what I most thought about, is that most people, it seemed, agreed that it was Pokemon, Final Fantasy, and Dragon Quest were the big three. Pokemon was the one that I meant to say third, not the one that I meant to begin with, but it was the one I was thinking about making sure I said, so I said it first. Whatever. So I buried the lead there, but no, I didn't. I did the opposite of burying the lead. Anyway, I don't... Okay, any list that includes Pokemon, Dragon Quest, or that includes Pokemon with Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy is a strange list to me. It's a list that hasn't really thought about itself, because Pokemon isn't a JRPG. It can't be. I know that you want to say, oh, the party system and the turn-based combat, and
we'll talk about why Pokemon isn't a JRPG, but how it is wearing JRPG skin in a moment, because I'm still trying to articulate why Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest don't belong on a list that is only 3 titles long. And so there should be an Enix title, which means that there should be one of the Star Ocean games should be on that list. So it should maybe be Star Ocean, Final Fantasy, if I'm just going with my biases. And I'm going to explain why my biases are the biases of the people that are responding to this question, and how our biases are wrong in a moment. So Final Fantasy and Star Ocean, and then there was another huge JRPG in the 90s. I believe it was called Phantasy Star, PH Phantasy Star. I believe it was on the Sega. I never played it. Like that feels like it should be on there, because Phantasy Star, didn't it get an MMO? But I think that it was probably also an Enix title, which means that it can't be. It doesn't feel like it belongs on the list with another Enix title, because I'm pretty sure that Star Ocean is an Enix title, and so that gets me thinking. And one thing that I haven't seen anybody mention is the Harvest Moon series. I feel like the Rune Factory games, which spawned the Harvestella game, I feel like they're a JRPG. I feel like Harvest Moon is a JRPG, because I think that we're getting hung up. I think we're getting hung up on identifying markers and not on philosophical being. And so if this is a channel where I use the tools that I've acquired via reading and listening to philosophers and great thinkers, and I'm applying them to everyday subjects that people want to play philosopher about, but because there's no standard for thought, anyone can have any interpretation and anyone can say anything they want. And I'm gonna apply that to video games for a little while. Because what I told you I was going to do today is I was going to tell you what I'm doing and why. And so let me just do that let me just do it. Instead of telling you, let me just do it in an obvious way. And so let's talk about video games. And so, like, before we can say what the big 3 the big 3 JRPGs are, we're supposed to define what a JRPG is. But I want to look a little more closely at what Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach represent among manga and among anime, because they weren't talking specifically about the manga. And so the manga of One Piece, I believe, stretches back to 1997, but I'm not sure any of these anime stretch back before 2000. And so, to me, if you're going to say that the big 3 modern anime/manga are contemporary with the 2000s, I don't think it makes sense to include JRPG titles, video game titles from the 80s. Because Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, their sensibilities are sensibilities from the 1980s. They don't have modern sensibilities. And so the modern big 3 franchises, because that's what we're really talking about, big 3 franchises. If we're talking about big 3 franchises, we have to talk about big 3 franchises that have remained contemporary. That have remained consistent is the word I meant to use. Remain consistent in their releases, as in releasing a title every year or 2 or 3, consistently releasing titles, but also they're consistent in their philosophy of being a JRPG. And so I saw a lot of people suggest Tales, and I think Tales is a better example, and I'll explain why. Because my inclination is to disinclude Tales for my biases. So let's talk about why my bias includes Final Fantasy, and why I think your bias includes Dragon Quest, and why both of our biases are so inclined to include Pokemon. so I said I wanted to look. I'm going to do that. We're going to do that. I said I'm going to do that, but what I want to do is I want to look at specifically what these anime are, because it doesn't make sense to do that thing without looking at what these anime mean and the context of anime, because it's like I accidentally replaced, and engaging in the conversation, I accidentally replaced One Piece with Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, the whole Dragon Ball franchise, the continuum of Dragon Ball. And a person pointed out to me that I had done that, and that they were right, and I said, oh, and that I was wrong for having done that, and I was like, oh, you're totally right. My fingers just replaced One Piece because I hate it. And so they said to me what is obvious to me, but needs to be said, because it's not obvious to everyone that's going to engage in this conversation. And that is that just because they're the big three doesn't necessarily mean they're the best. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the best, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're the most popular. So the big three are really there where kids get hooked, it seems to be. And the big three anime are broadly shonen anime, so I believe that's what that's called. They're fighting adventure anime, and so what they share in common is that they're broadly violent, that they have a lot of filler in the anime, and that they're character driven. So they're like a sit action. So instead of a situational comedy, they're like situational action. So, situational adventure. Okay. But I don't think that anyone would argue, and I've already said this, but they're not the best. It's not that Naruto or Bleach or One Piece are particularly good. It's that they're a really good introductory place for someone who has no negative bias toward anime.
For kids to understand what's happening, even when
they're a really good place to get started with the shonen genre in general. And the reason that Dragon Ball and its continuum isn't included is because Dragon Ball leans a little bit more adult, I think. It leans, and by more adult, I mean it leans more toward that adrenaline and hormone-fueled moment around 17 to 19. So it's more adolescent. Okay, so when I said that maybe Final Fantasy shouldn't be included in the list, because I think that that's where I'm ultimately going, is that I think that ultimately what I'm obsessing over is that Final Fantasy doesn't belong among the big three, and that maybe Tales does, and where they branch from one another is that Tales is almost obstinately preteen. It's almost deliberately immature, to the point that it's derivative of more mature fiction and more mature fantasy, specifically more mature dark fantasy, but it's
afraid to go to its place.
I wouldn't say oppressively optimistic. I would say it's almost painfully childish in its presentation. And so that makes me think of Naruto in a lot of ways. And okay, so Tales makes sense to me as one of the big three. Even if it's not the most played, you can sit someone who's never played a JRPG down in front of Tales with its hybrid of action and turn-based combat, and its hybrid of romantic sims like in American RPGs and romance building, and then they can feel their way through a lot of American or Western gamers' first introduction to any JRPG at all was a Tales game, simply because they are a good introduction. And so that makes sense to me. But then that suggests to me that Final Fantasy can't be on that list, and I've already said that Pokemon doesn't belong. So let's talk about what a JRPG is then, since Final Fantasy, I think, can't be on the list, because while a JRPG, and while 7, especially once you're talking about the post-2000 RPG market, Final Fantasies 7, 8, and 10 were played by a lot of people, and a lot of people that were unfamiliar with the genre. But those games specifically, 7, 8, and 10, those all skew toward college students. Those all skew toward young adults and late adolescent.
Because video games were already skewing to the visuals on the SNES.
And One Piece is about children who are pirates, and Bleach is about high schoolers who are angels of death, and so that doesn't skew toward college students. And the kinds of things that a post college or post high school life are going to present to you, that's not what those are doing. So Final Fantasy is excluded. Final Fantasy can't be among the big three. Because Final Fantasy is Dragon Ball. Because Final Fantasy has a little bit of everything. It has a lot of action. It has a lot of adrenaline. It has a lot of filler. But it also has some light, fluffy, easy romances, because the game mechanics don't have a place for a romance sim. And so that leads me with an open space, and I would like to disqualify the other open space before we move on to the Shin Megami Tensei series, and whether it fits, because I think Tails fits, and I think Pokemon does not fit. And so why doesn't Pokemon fit? And so Pokemon is a good place for us to discuss what exactly a JRPG is. And so I think a lot of people are confused about what an RPG is, a role-playing game. So, by the definitions of the word, it's a game in which you play a role. Every single game is an RPG. There's no game where you don't have a role that you are playing within the context of the game.
Some games are just
that's what a game is to play a role. So what does that mean, to role play? Well, it's when you hear people talk about it around a D&D table, oh, we want more role play and less game, right? Less combat, for instance, fewer roles. Role play is that organic feeling like the character to a lot of people. So like when you play a game like Horizon Zero Dawn, that's technically a role playing game, because the game wants you to dive into the headspace, the role of, and to, while you play it, become and role play as Aloy, I believe her name is. But like Doom doesn't particularly care about your headspace experience as the character, the Doom guy. They didn't even give him a name. So that's not a role-playing game. The game itself isn't to play the role of Doom.
No, but Doom
playing the role of Doom guy,
like this.
You know, in a lot of ways is the game, because the role of Doom guy is to kill the Doom monsters or whatever. But it's not a role-playing game in that way. I'm not making the distinction clear. I know that I'm confusing it in that way that I said before, the muddying up, not so much the making a pretty shade of blue. But I think that in the Western market, what a role-playing game is, there are certain key elements, and I think a stat sheet is one of them. Managing and developing a character's stats, and their character growth through a game. And so that means choices about developing them. And so those choices often mean dialogue. And so that the JRPG in a lot of ways is
for narrative control.
Different.
Shepard
from the
doesn't develop as a
perspective of
character.
role playing than
The
Western
narrative
games.
changes.
So this used to be a big debate in the 90s and the early aughts, and it's gone away now because the genres are they've largely closed themselves off. So like RPGs are no longer really trying to appeal to a mass market, and then also there's less genre gatekeeping. So fans of first person shooters will play RPGs now, and it used to be the case that they wouldn't. And a lot of that is Bethesda. Because of Skyrim, not Skyrim specifically, but the Elder Scrolls games, and specifically the one that I'm completely forgetting, Fallout. Turning Fallout into a first-person shooter opened the door for a lot of people that were shooter fans to get into RPGs, and for a lot of RPG fans to get into shooters and to get into to think about video games and about role-playing within a video game in a different way. But to say JRPG is to be calling back to a tradition which really does harken back to the 80s and the 90s, and so I know that I said that I think that these games which were from the 80s and the 90s should be disqualified because these anime that we're relating to them to are from the 2000s. They're 20 years later. The big four in metal were in the 80s, and the big three in anime is hearkening to the big four of metal. So I can disqualify my own opinions pretty quickly if it's necessary for me to get to an answer within 2 hours. And I'm only 20 minutes in, so I can waffle for quite a while on this, actually. Longer before I need to pretend like I know what the fuck I'm talking about. But in order for me to talk about why Pokemon's not a JRPG, I would like to have a pretty clear understanding of what a JRPG is without relying on negative definition. So JRPGs, but we're going to rely on negative definition a little bit here. JRPGs do have they do have character sheets, but frequently in JRPGs you're not expected to allot points. So the difference, and these are going to be games post, I know, much later than the tradition of the 80s that I'm talking about. But if you're talking about like the difference in Mass Effect and Final Fantasy X, you still have a fairly large roster of characters, and those characters are interchangeable. And rather, you can move the party is a small number, so probably four people for this example, and you can swap out 3 of them because you have your guy that is you, in this case Shepard or Tidus, and then you can swap people out and you can make them better. But in Mass Effect, you are making choices about where you're allotting points to your party members, what weapons they're wearing, like what weapon specializations they use, what skills they choose, out of their trees, these sorts of things. Now I know that you can set it up to be automatic because even Mass Effect was trying to, by being a third-person shooter, was actually trying to take the RPG genre and cross-class it, if we're going to use RPG terminology, with the third-person shooter or third-person action genre, which was really popular at the time. So really what Mass Effect, especially by Mass Effect 3, what you really are playing is a third-person shooter with RPG elements. And so that's what we're talking about when we say what is an RPG, because what an RPG is nonsense. That's a nonsensical title. But what it implies is a certain sort of gameplay, and that gameplay is that you're trying to develop your characters. You're trying to develop them in power, and you're trying to develop them in story. And so, like, a lot of the reason that Final Fantasy is on that list is because, like, Final Fantasy VI is a tour de force of that. Every character has a unique development, so as they gain levels, they get unique skills and abilities that they can use in combat, but you can equip your espers in such a way that you can make choices about the specific ways in which their stats develop every level. and then they also have, while not branching, very deep narrative stories for each individual character as you collect them. And I think there's like 16 or 13 of them or something like that. But that's not typical of JRPGs, and that's why we've disqualified Final Fantasy from being among the big three, because Final Fantasy, while also skewing toward adults, is also too experimental. The games are too dissimilar they're too dissimilar from one another among the franchise. So like 16 is so dramatically different from 2 that they may as well be a different franchise. They don't have even similar combat mechanics or gameplay mechanics, not just graphics, just like I include and I insist on the Tales, because the Tales games, you can pick up any Tales game and it feels like any other, just where it is on the chronological release, if that makes sense. So like the ones on the PS2 feel different from the ones on the PS1, feel different from Arise, I think is the most recent one to be released. But they're all Tales games. They all play like a Tales game, and they all have the narrative elements of a Tales game, and they all have yada yada yada, the world building elements of a Tales game. They feel like a Tales game. Where like Final Fantasy, the only way that it feels like Final Fantasy in the same way as the previous one, especially after 10-2 and after the original director, is that Yoshinori Kitase? Did I get that right? Probably not. After he left Squeenix, the games they become even feel different from one another. They become different genre of games. Like 11 is a different they even go online. So let's get off that, because I've disqualified 11 and I'm defining through negative attribution. And so the Japanese version of an RPG, and why it has that J distinction versus the W Western distinction. And we no longer have the Western distinction. It's now either an RPG or a JRPG. So anyway, the Western distinction, what makes a JRPG and distinguishes it from a Western RPG is a very, very, very linear gameplay plot. So you're not playing Hitman in Final Fantasy. Like there aren't multiple ways to solve the problems like there are in Fallout. The first 2 Fallout games, there are multiple ways to get through every problem, and that's because your character can be developed as a blank slate to solve problems in multiple ways, and that's that particular way to encourage replayability. But that thing is what people are talking about when they say more role play and less combat or less gameplay at a D&D table, is that they're not actually trying to play a game, they're trying to play a life sim. And really that's what the Western RPG is these are more like, I don't remember what they call them, but they're basically life sims. So like if you think about the really big PC RPGs that as in personal computer RPGs, they got really big around the time that we're talking it's not called BioShock, System Shock I think just recently got a remake or a remaster or whatever. And that game is it's a life sim. Like that's not what they call it. I don't think that's what they call it. But it's that kind of RPG, like being like in the Elder Scrolls or in System Shock, or I'm trying to think of, because they got real popular for a while and then they stopped having any sort of gameplay, and then that culminated in the Stanley Parable, and then basically since then the medium has all but disappeared until this System Shock remake or remaster or whatever, and then people were shocked by what an RPG could be like if it wasn't about grinding combat, if it was about role-playing and not about game. And so I've wandered off that topic, but that gets us to why Pokemon isn't actually an RPG, is that Pokemon doesn't actually have any role-playing. It doesn't actually have any role-playing elements. And I know that what you're saying to yourself is, but it's turn-based combat, but you've got the the varied party, and but you're trying to develop them. It's got levels and the stat sheet, and they all have abilities, and they develop, and yada yada yada. But that's exactly what I mean when I'm talking about the JRPG versus Western RPG distinction. Is it can look, when you make that distinction and you divorce the RPG from the RP, and you just make it about the G and the development and the growth of the characters, and the making the numbers bigger, and the numbers bigger are the bigger score, and they make you do more damage, and they make you be more interesting. That's how you can confuse the most recent 3 Assassin's Creed games, the one in Greece, the one in Egypt, and the one in with the Vikings. That's how you can confuse those with RPGs, because you can say, oh well, they have RPG elements because you're doing those things, but those are interesting, and they're fun, and they're great, but those aren't what make an RPG. Like a stat sheet does not an RPG make. And so what is the Japanese RPG is in a lot of ways the sweeping storyline in combination with and a lot of times in combination with crafting elements, and it's really about the grinding in the maps on the world. And so like
in the world. That's correct.
As I'm disqualifying Pokemon, even though it's all of those things, I'm saying that Pokemon is a collect-a-thon. Pokemon's a monster tamer. Like, you wouldn't say monster tamer / RPG, and you wouldn't say about Pokemon that it's an RPG / monster tamer, because your character has no development. Your character doesn't develop. Your character has almost no character. Your character has almost no presence in the world whatsoever. And that can't be a JRPG, because your character is the most important thing to an RPG, making like especially if you look at JRPGs as they understand themselves and as they've understood themselves since about the PS3 era. So like especially if you look at NIS, the Nippon Ichi Software, and if you look at Compile Heart, and I'm trying to remember the other one. I've got a cat meowing in the other room. Every time I try to remember the name, the cat meows, and it gets me all messed up. I'm trying to remember the name of the company that releases the Hyperdimension Neptunia games.
That's Compile.
Gust? Is that right?
Gust releases.
The companies that are actually releasing JRPGs today that actually seem to have put some thought into what is the philosophy that makes a JRPG a JRPG and not a Western RPG. It's engagement with it's a much deeper engagement with the combat system, but it's also an understanding that even if your main character it's an acknowledgement that even if the goal is to make your party members super powerful, your main character is still the power fantasy. Like you are still the power fantasy. So like I'm thinking about like Fairy Fencer F, and there's a whole series of games like that using the Hyperdimension Neptunia combat system, where the goal is it flips the Hyperdimension Neptunia idea on its head. And so Hyperdimension Neptunia does not belong in the top 3 in the big 3 JRPGs conversation, because it's such a niche title. Too few people have played it. It doesn't correlate well to Bleach or to Naruto, to Bleach or to One Piece, because I think I've already assigned Naruto to I guess I've just been allowing Dragon Quest to sit there. No, to Tales. I disqualified. Well, I have left Dragon Quest off because it's probably going to be included, but I would like to exclude it. I would like to disqualify Dragon Quest, because I don't think enough people in the West actually play Dragon Quest for Westerners to include Dragon Quest in the big 3. Now, it obviously deserves inclusion in Japan, but that's a phenomena all in and of itself. Kind of like how the former guitarist of Megadeth is huge in Japan. Like, some things are just huge in Japan. But it's impossible also to say that that Dragon Quest doesn't belong in the discussion as
I don't
obviously
think
in
we
the
would
big three
argue that
because
David
everybody
Hasselhoff is a
uses
great actor
slimes.
because he's huge into
Everybody
anime.
uses their monsters. Everybody either uses Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy's monsters in their base bestiary. Everybody they use Dragon Quests because Dragon Quest's monsters are interesting and unique, and they use Final Fantasies because they're the D&D bestiary. So, yeah.
Mm.
Um,
Mm. You don't have to play D&D if you've played enough Final Fantasy.
I was talking about Fairy Fencer F and games like that, and Hyperdimension Neptunia, where the idea is to make your party members better, and that the power of friendship rules the day. But that seems to be what JRPGs are. So like the JRPG seems to be this deep, grueling grind to make your characters better, but at the end of the day, it's this long story about how love and friendship, overcome all obstacles. And so Hyperdimension Neptunia really stands out to me because there are so many games, but I think that it came out too late in order to be counted. Because it was closer to 2010 when that franchise started, and that franchise was already homaging and ripping off an existent tradition, a tradition that had already existed for damn near 40 years by that point. So, 30 years for sure. I was pushing JRPGs back into the 70s like I have any idea. I don't know why they wouldn't. So, I think that maybe those titles... but if you want Pokemon to be in there, I think that what we have to do is that we have to really stop and we have to think to ourselves whether tactical RPGs, tactical JRPGs count. Because if you want to broaden JRPG out to include tactical JRPGs like Final Fantasy Tactics, Dragon Quest, Ogre Battle, or specifically the one I'm thinking of, Disgaea, then
You got somebody ahead of you.
then your conversation becomes interesting to me, because the JRPG in a lot of ways is the tactical RPG, because what a JRPG is doing is it's trying really hard to take tabletop RPG like D&D
Trials. That's why I wanna
and
play,
make it
Trails in the
cinematic,
Sky.
make it look
Legend of
neat.
Heroes,
That's
because Legend
what
of
that's what
Heroes was
JRPGs have
tactical
been doing since
back in the early 80s.
Final Fantasy VII.
The first Legend of Heroes isn't available
That's
in
why
English at all.
Final Fantasy has come
And
completely off the rails since 11,
third
and
one came to the
especially since
States.
12. I mean, 16 isn't even
But I don't trust
turn-based.
my
It's not even
emulator
trying to imitate
to
turn-based.
run it, so
Like
I
Kingdom
haven't booted it
Hearts,
up
at
yet.
least, was a hybrid. Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts 2, and Kingdom Hearts 3 were a hybrid, and then the intermediate releases were hybrids that were
RPG
further hybridized,
action
like
adventure game.
hybrids that further cross-classed. So I wonder if Disgaea doesn't belong on that
you
list.
Do actually make. I would
Because
actually, I'd change my mind.
I would
Kingdom
say
Hearts is
that
an RPG because
what
you do
belongs
actually
on the
get to
list is
decide
Ogre
how,
Battle.
uh,
But
some
Ogre Battle
developers
hasn't
try to
continued to
dictate in-game.
consistently released
You decide
updates
how his,
to the canon.
abilities and
So you've
his
got
stats
Ogre Battle,
develop
and then I
over
believe
the
you've got Ogre
course of
Battle
the
64,
game.
and then
So
you've
you
got
actually
Ogre Battle
do-
Tactics, and that seems to be Ogre Battle's contribution to JRPGs, but their influence is massive. So
I think
if
I'm
they're
wrong
not
about that.
included, obviously Final Fantasy
There were
Tactics
a lot of
can't
franchises
be
I didn't
included.
know about when I
That
recorded this. I just
genre,
think
though,
somebody
is
got looking in
huge.
the way that I did to
Even
myself
Fairy
now.
Fencer F is releasing, or has released, in fact, I think already, a tactical RPG, a tactical JRPG version of itself. The Advanced Wars series, which is huge, and there are has influenced video games in a massive way, was borrowing heavily from Ogre Battle, which means that I have to include in the big three has to, absolutely must, necessarily include the game that I can never remember, the title, Sword, Fire Emblem, has to include Fire Emblem. Has to include Fire Emblem, and that nobody mentioned Fire Emblem means that this conversation is flawed from the get-go, because I don't think people would tell you that Fire Emblem is a JRPG, but like I think Nintendo would insist that Fire Emblem is a JRPG and isn't just a JRPG, but it defines JRPGs with every release. It defines how people think about JRPG with every release. Because it has everything. It has the stats, it has the linear story, it has the friendship element, but it also has Western elements with the relationship sim and all of that business. I've never played a Fire Emblem game deep enough to have an informed education or an informed opinion about this, but it has to, because Fire Emblem is Disgaia's main competitor, and Disgaea continues to release games. They're up to their 7th title. I think they're releasing another one. The 7th one, I think.
I'm missing.
Might be they just released the 7th one, and I haven't gotten around to it yet. Or maybe they're about to release the 8th. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. I love those games, but I never finish them. I play them for like 100 hours and realize that I'm only on like chapter 5, and I go, why am I playing this game still? Because they're JRPGs, and it's about the combat. It's about the combat. Everything goes through the combat in a JRPG. Where in Western RPGs, you're almost trying to avoid combat. Like in Skyrim, like the developers almost punish you if you want to play the game as a fighter. And by a fighter, I mean somebody who's just trying to engage in combat the whole game.
But this is the game that is.
And that's where the distinction comes from. I think I already said that, right? It's the RP versus the G. So like I tend to only play JRPGs as far as RPGs go, because they're about the G, not the RP. The RP to me is tedious and boring. I don't like to read. The voice acting is always bad, and the choices almost never have anything whatever to do with what I said. And so like Mass Effect, you just pick blue or you just pick red, and you just skip cutscenes because what's going to play out doesn't matter, and the game was dumb anyway. But I don't tend to like Western RPGs, because Western RPGs tend to have a massive amount of hype around them, and the reason that they have a massive amount of hype around them is because back in the day, you couldn't sell RPGs. You couldn't sell a Western RPG to a mass audience. It was a niche thing that would usually get your company canned for trying. Like your company would collapse if you tried to release an RPG, and so they had to be mass marketed to compete with the JRPGs that were selling, but also to convince the people who thought that the whole idea, like me, is stupid, would give it a chance. And so that's why after Interplay,
Mr. S and I were talking
after Interplay went tits up, and Bethesda bought Fallout.
Because has it ever occurred to you that maybe you just don't like?
That's why around that time, around that 5-year span, everybody was hybridizing their RPGs, because BioWare had made KOTOR, and it did all right, but it was a niche title. Now, they released it on Xbox, which made it a niche title. If they had released it on the PlayStation, it would have been the biggest game in the universe, but they chose to release it through Microsoft, through the very company that did so much to make RPGs not work for PC anyway. But RPGs have also always had a bad rap for not being graphically advanced, and you can see that in retro RPGs. Like everybody's trying to copy Chrono Trigger.
What happened to him?
Everybody is trying to copy Chrono Trigger to the point that it's annoying that they forget to make their own game. They don't make a good Chrono Trigger, and they forget to make a good game, like their own game. I'm thinking specifically like Chris Tales. I really did not like that game.
That was awful.
After I got to about the 3rd or 4th chapter, it just started to really grate on me how much back and forth I had to do, how many loading screens I had to look at. just got really tedious. And I don't like games that only tell me like, go see Bill. I'm really bad at learning people's names, so not saying, hey, go to the carpenter Bill, or hey, go see Bill. He's probably in his office in this place over here in town. I hate that. I don't mind dialogue clues, but we're not talking about that. I'm not doing a broad critique of video games. I'm trying to figure out what the big three are, and so I think that I've come down. Tales and Fire Emblem, and so I have to talk about Dragon Quest because it seems so obvious that Square Enix, the company that made JRPGs cool in the West, deserves to have their place enshrined among the big three, but people don't play those games. Though, like, if you're gonna introduce someone to a JRPG, you're not going to say play Final Fantasy VII, because look at it now. You're not going to tell somebody to play a retro game, and you're most certainly not going to tell them to play Final Fantasy 15 because that was a steaming pile of dog shit.
I've gotten more people to care about Final Fantasy VIII just because
so maybe it's Zelda.
Looks good. Final Fantasy
in fact, it has to be
like
Zelda.
Shit at the time.
It has to be Zelda for the very reasons that Pokemon isn't. For the very reason that Pokemon, that your character is a blank slate and you aren't playing a role, isn't a JRPG. Zelda is. Zelda is the JRPG. Huh. I came to a conclusion inside 2 hours. This one only took 44 minutes, 45 now. Yeah, it's got to be Zelda. It's got to be... It has to be Zelda because everybody plays. Wow. I said that one company can't have two. I disqualified Squeenix from having two, and then I gave them none, and then now I'm trying to say that Nintendo gets two, which is interesting because Zelda's old and so
Zelda's
big in that way, but Zelda is an RPG. You're developing Link. You get to name your guy. That's your guy. And even though he's got the personality of a cardboard box, you're doing all of the things. You're doing quests. You're saving the world. You and what you do are the most important thing. You are making choices. And you do ultimately make choices on how you develop. As much as I hated Breath of the Wild, I mean, you do pick your weapons. You do yada yada. And you do get to creatively problem solve like a Western RPG. Once. That's why everybody in the West loves and has always loved Zelda.
Breath of the Wild is a physics...
So does that disqualify?
It's a physics game, a physics engine. It's not an RPG.
Does that disqualify?
I hadn't played
Fire
Breath
Emblem?
of the Wild yet.
Because Fire Emblem is hugely derivative of the Ogre Battle series.
It's a derivative of Ogre Battle and the Legend of Heroes, Trails in the Sky series. Also,
which then makes you wonder, like,
Phantasy
okay,
Star.
so
All
are
of
the
those
Devil
did
May
that
Cry
combat
games,
style first
are they RPGs?
before,
I don't think so. Not in the Japanese sense. I mean,
Fire Emblem.
you get they're
They had
Japanese
too many-
video
they had too
games
many
in that there's
influences to
character
be one of the
development
big
and you
three.
gain levels in an abstract sense. But I don't think that the Devil May
Bleach,
Cry or
Naruto, Dragon
Bayonetta,
Ball,
I
they
don't think
didn't
that those
have
count
influences.
as JRPGs. Those count as video games,
were the
Japanese video
influence.
games, and Japanese video games tend to be video games.
I guess
They tend to be games. They tend to be
they
fun. So you tend
almost
to have
did.
scores. They tend to have replayability and
Because, like,
you
Legend
getting
of the
better now
Fist
that
of
you
the
have
North
better
Star
gear
whatever that's
or
called.
whatever. But they tend to have an arcade sentiment that Western
set the
games
foundation.
don't. Western games tend to try to
In the same
maintain a
way that
tabletop
this Wizardry
sentiment
and
of
Ultima set the
returning
foundation.
to this ever enriching, deepening, unfolding story.
I don't think Fist of the North Star was a shonen anime.
And exactly the way that Mass Effect gave you the interconnected stories. And I don't know what the hell is going on that every developer of video games hasn't done that since. It can't be that difficult.
Can't be that difficult on modern hardware.
But I mean,
been
even
that difficult
BioWare
on-
fucked it up with Dragon Age Inquisition, so it must be that difficult.
It's either that difficult or they're that bad at their jobs. So,
And so I'm asking
them
the
the credit
question
that it's
of,
that
of
difficult.
whether I've disqualified.
it's not difficult. They just lack vision. They lack...
Fire Emblem. I always want to call that game Burning
Imagination.
Sword and I really
Always
don't know
want to
why.
call it Burning Sword. I have to think Burning Sword in order to get to Fire Emblem. I think it's because there was an item in
Or Zelda.
Ogre Battle 64 that I think is actually called a sword emblem.
The thing is, like, even Final Fantasy now is competing to be Zelda.
Yeah. An action-adventure game. Strip the RPG elements and just go for the action and the adventure.
And the tactical
Did you understand the adventure
RPG
is the doing the quest thing? The exploring big empty open worlds like Zelda has.
I don't know if it's
That's
a
the adventure part of the action.
it was
adventure.
those
The
kinds of
action is the
RPG were
real-time
really
combat.
popular on PC, but I don't know. I can't think off the
You could
top of
call
my head
this
of
a
a single
turn-based
American
adventure
developer
game.
that still likes grid-based games
But they
that's
call
not
it
named
a role-play
Firaxis.
game because the character development is so front and center in what you're doing.
I
And the
know that
role
there
of
are other
keeping these
4X
idiots
titles, but
alive
4X
is so
isn't
central to the
RPG,
gameplay.
and Firaxis is constantly trying to figure out how to make tactical RPGs. But Disgaea is the only long-running tactical RPG that I can think of. And having... I mean, I know Final Fantasy... See, in Final Fantasy...
Yeah,
Final
Legend of
Fantasy isn't a
Heroes. I
genre
didn't know
either.
that.
It's an
I
identity.
haven't played any of them
It
yet
became
still.
a brand, almost. I mean, obviously it was a brand, but I mean like a label. It became like a label. Like less this is a Final Fantasy game than this is an RPG made in Japan that we want to sell well in the West.
That's a critical distinction between
Man.
these games.
And
Which
I'm
ones
trying to
do they
think of
make,
another
anticipating that they're
long-running
gonna sell
action
well in the
RPG
United States and Europe.
that people play. The thing
That's
is,
what
I
Final
don't think,
Fantasy is
because
become.
it has to be a beginner, it
Six
has to be
big
entry
bonkers.
level, it has to be something that young people like, that young people are willing to go ape shit about. And so, like, Kingdom Hearts is a no. Kingdom Hearts isn't where you
Really
tell
shit for
people to
Kingdom
start
Hearts.
with action RPGs.
Correct.
Kingdom Hearts is where you tell
Start
people to
with
go
Devil
when
May
they're like,
Cry.
man, I really need a new JRPG, like action JRPG.
Yep.
And then, like, the action JRPG, maybe Ys. Maybe Ys would be better than Zelda.
Ys.
Yeah,
Ys is so
I like
much
that.
better than
So are the big three Ys?
Yes. Ys
I've
is
done
in
it
the big
again.
three.
Fire Emblem and
Legend of Heroes. Is
what
the
was my
second one.
original supposition?
Ys, Legend of Heroes,
Tales.
Final Fantasy.
Ys, Tales, and Fire Emblem. That seems like an argument that I can
Ys,
Final
live
Fantasy
with
because
Legend of Heroes.
I don't necessarily like any of those games.
Dragon Quest isn't good enough.
It does leave out the last element of the JRPG thing, and that's the crafting. Crafting and self-sustainability, like in the Harvest Moon, Tales of Seasons type games. And so I don't know where
The
where
Atelier
to put
series isn't
her,
old or good enough.
not her, them on the
They're
list.
not consistent
But the
enough, and
Atelier
they
games
don't
belong
sell. Yeah, they
on
don't-
the
no, they
list.
don't. Not on the big three and the big
There
five,
are
they-
so many of them. Gust makes Atelier, not
Correct.
Hyperdimension Neptunia.
Correct.
I can't remember. They work with Compile Heart, but I really can't remember
Idea Factory.
what the name of that developer is, and it doesn't matter at this
Idea
point.
Factory.
But the Atelier series belongs in the discussion.
Yeah,
I
in
just
the
don't know-
discussion, but not in the top three.
I don't know where they fit. The Atelier series is
haven't
as
sold
J as RPGs
Yes,
get.
they are.
They're so friendship rules the day, so saccharine sweet.
Saccharine
They
sweet.
hurt my teeth,
Yeah.
but I love them so
they're fun to
much.
play.
I love the I love the crafting and the gathering and the all of that. I love the Atelier series. I am stoked. Like I destroyed Atelier Marie when it came out a few weeks ago, or maybe even a few months ago, whatever that was. I beat it twice back to back in just a handful of days, and that's sort of what I like about those games. Is they're, you could almost say they're JRPGs light, but those games in the way that an RPG should, and that I love about Japanese video games in general, is those games go as deep as you want to go with them. So like the crafting and the customization within the crafting goes and the customization within the crafting as far as the gathering goes and the grinding from random encounters goes, that goes so deep, so much deeper than I'm really ever willing to venture into any video game. I mentioned that with Disgaea, that Disgaea goes infinitely deep as far as your character development. And if you don't know, the reason it goes infinitely deep is you can get to max level. I believe max level is either 999 or 9999. And then at any point between level 2 and max level, you can restart your character with increasing scaling percentages of your stats. So I mean, you can get infinitely powerful in Disgaea, which is cool. And I've never made it to the end of the game where like maybe you want that infinitude of power for side quest or optional bosses or something. I told you I've only ever played about 5 or 6 chapters deep in those games, and I find myself hundreds of hours in the item world, the randomly generated dungeons.
True facts, yo.
And then the combat system itself becomes tedious to me because, and maybe I'm the only person that thinks of it this way, but so much of, again, JRPG is so much, it's about the video game aspect. It's about the game. It's about the gameplay loop of the combat. So many JRPGs only have the one gameplay loop of combat. That's why I say like it's hard not to include in the conversation about JRPGs like the crafting, the harvesting, the homesteading elements that have become so popular today, because, and why I think that the franchises that introduced those to the broad RPG or broad JRPG are really what belong in the big 3 if you're only going to have 3. And so I don't know if maybe Atelier should replace Tales, but I think that would be silly because I don't think enough people have played the Atelier games maybe for them to be among the big 3. But if you look online, they have the following, and clearly they don't have the following necessary to be in the big 3. Actually, I have to disqualify them for their lacking English voiceover. That they don't have English voiceover means that they expect their audience to be the kind of people that don't want English voiceover, which means they don't expect mass crossover appeal.
That's not what happened.
And I suppose that's what has allowed their games to remain so niche, and in a lot of ways what's allowed their games to remain so turn-based, or at least so focused on trying to maintain the turn-based style combat. Because
only 2 of them just released. They released
a Western
number
RPG
3 is number 4, number 4 is number
doesn't
3.
rely on the turn-based combat, but I'm going to insist that the turn-based, because if you're going to include Pokemon, the turn-based is what people think is JRPG about it. Like that's what they think is J about it.
A bunch of people, so people just gave up on the series entirely when it was still on the PS1.
And so maybe I just wanted to, Atelier's just been running for so long since the first PlayStation. It's been running for so long. And it has inspired so many games. So many games. Their basic crafting setup is the basic crafting setup for, well, maybe when I say so many games, what I mean is so many indie games. So many indie games. And maybe the reason that I'm saying that so many indie games are aping what they do is because there is so little mass crossover that you can rip off the Atelier series and nobody would know that you've made an Atelier game with a male protagonist and just called it something else. That can be exactly the
Correct.
same and no one will know or say anything about it. And I think Iris actually had a male protagonist. Iris is the first one that I played, and I cannot wait. I've heard that there's an Iris, that they're remaking that whole um, original slate, so I can't
No
wait. In
movement
a lot of
on
ways,
that
I'm
in
not
the last
playing
2 years, so
Sophie
that's coming. They're
and
taking
the
their
later
sweet
ones.
fucking time.
I have Sophie and I have the three Rises. I beat Risa. Risa's excellent. Risa 2 is excellent. I haven't booted up Risa 3, and a lot of the reason. I also have Liddy and uh, Maruru, I think is what it's called. I
Rorona.
have
Not
no,
Maruru, yeah.
no. I've played Rorona.
And I've played
Um,
Rorona
I've played so many of these titles. I've played so many
a
of
lot.
the Hyperdimension Neptunia titles too that my love and my bias really wants me to include them in the big three. But like, just
Too
because
old.
they have
Or
really
maybe they're too
dedicated
young.
niche
Not old enough.
followings, and I wouldn't even say they have niche followings because, but
I
I'm
don't
way
know
off
anybody
topic
that
if what
knows
I'm trying to do is
Hyperdimension
justify
Neptunia.
that Hyperdimension Neptunia because it's gotten crossover releases and it has a PC following because you can mod it to make the girls naked. That's not the same as Zelda. Like, that's not the same. It doesn't have the same broad appeal. It doesn't have the same, because the other thing about the big three as far as these anime is they also have name cachet, I suppose. So when you say Naruto or you say One Piece or Bleach, people know what you're talking about even if they haven't watched it or read it. And so like I'm pretty confident that Atelier, Hyperdimension, Neptunia are titles that
Geese struggles for that.
only fans of the JRPG market have heard of, and that disqualifies you automatically. It almost disqualifies you. Tails is almost disqualified for that reason because I had never heard of Tails until Zillia. And I hated Zillia so much
Tails is
I
awful.
could not tell
It's
you
not
how
on
much I hated
the list.
Zillia. But a lot of why I hated Zillia is I was at that point in my life where the core gameplay loop, or I was at the point in my life where I had recognized those things that make a JRPG, and I had grown embarrassed that I like JRPGs, so I wanted them to be more like Western RPGs. So I became critical in that way that Western gatekeeping uh, of the RPG brand encouraged me to behave for about a decade of my life, and then now I've been revisiting, and where a lot of this comes from is I've been revisiting those games that I missed in the space, and then the games that I missed on
Still
either
trying
end
to
of what I
catch up.
actually had access to, because it turns out I had access to a really narrow window of games, and so like part of what I'm thinking about as I'm thinking about JRPGs is I was thinking, and I still may, you'll know by the time you hear this what I've decided to pair it with, but I've been thinking about going back to Final Fantasy um, for my Let's Plays. I have a lot of. I'm done with Brotato for a while. I need to take a break. I've beaten it with every character. I said that last time, and trying to go back and beat it on difficulty 5 so soon after having done that, I'm too exhausted. I hit about wave 13, and I just panic and die, and then I get so frustrated that I do it 6 more times on wave 9, and then I finally get back to 13 and panic and die because I'm so excited to be there. It's like I need to take a break. Um, and so I've been thinking that maybe what I don't want to play for you, for the audience, maybe what I don't want to play for myself as I'm recording is more um, roguelites. But then I was looking through my collection last night, and I have a massive collection of JRPGs and roguelites. Um, and I'm realizing as I'm talking now and I'm thinking through two things. One, I might go back to playing Dead Cells because I still have a lot of work in that game to unlock. I could do that I could do that while recording because I'm not bad at that game. And what I'm realizing is that I may have left out an entire series, an entire genre of JRPGs that no one talks about that are actually really excellent. They're entirely JRPGs and they're first person, which is a style of RPG in the West that's been gone since the 90s. That went away once RPGs left the PC market, jumped onto the Xbox market, and then came back. Now they're back to the PC market, but they forgot first person RPGs, and so I haven't included a single mention of one first person RPG, and I think that might be out of that earlier embarrassment. I like to play the ecchi or the moe anime JRPGs just because I'm easily amused and don't care what you think about me in a sort of passive way. But like the Moero Crystal Moero Chronicle, those games were excellent first person games, and in a way they're a perfection on what people think is the Pokemon what makes Pokemon an RPG. So like your main character in at least one of them, I think both of them actually, doesn't actually develop. The idea is that you're collecting these monster girls, right? And you're leveling up these monster girls, but you also have I don't know if you call it relationship goals, but you have this relationship meter with each girl that you're trying to level up, in addition to giving them items, in addition to all these other tons of mini games associated with the girls. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to take Pokemon, and they're trying to take the JRPG skins off of it and take the collectathon element out of it, and take the trading and the science and the bug thing, like the bug collecting, out of it and put it back into a JRPG setting. And so I've almost talked myself into believing that Pokemon is a JRPG again, even though I don't believe that. I do believe that it's a different thing with JRPG elements. They took the core gameplay loops or the core gameplay elements of a JRPG, and they made them a different thing. And great for them, but Pokemon cannot be in the top 3 of JRPGs. It just not top 3, big 3 of JRPGs. It just can't, because it's including it and including Final Fantasy and Dragon Ball together. Those 3 are very misleading about what JRPGs are actually like, because JRPGs haven't been like Final Fantasy hasn't been like other JRPGs since 10. And wasn't like other JRPGs at 10. And in fact, Final Fantasy was always ahead of the curve deciding what JRPGs were like to begin with. Everybody was trying to keep up with what Final Fantasy was doing. Dragon Quest can't be one of the big 3. To circle back through my argument to double check that it's right, Dragon Quest can't be, because there aren't enough titles. It's getting a major renaissance now. There are a lot of titles that are coming out lately, but the people that like JRPGs have been like me, as regards Dragon Quest, who aren't already massive fans of the particular story loop that is them, but they're so kiddie. And I realized in complaining, and I knew that complaining about this was going to get me in trouble, but I realized in complaining about the male dancer character, who's obviously queer-coded, whether he's gay or asexual or not, he's obviously queer-coded. And people that like that game like that character. Of course they like that character, they like that game, and they like this silly kind of presentation of serious world issues. But what I took umbrage with wasn't the character, it was with the design development to make that character the surrogate main character when the main character was dead, and to remove you from the core gameplay loop of fighting evil to, well, just gay the pain away. And I realized, after having said that, and after knowing what I meant by it, and after knowing how other people were going to react to that I'm making a negative about saying that gay people are bad when I'm not in fact saying gay people are bad. what that section of that game is telling you is if you just act gay, then all of your problems go away. And I understand that that to a stupid person, that's just an okay thing to say. But what it really is it's a non-Western person pandering to the acceptance of flamboyant homosexuality, or at least flamboyant girl acting likeness among boys, that they're now allowed to. It's an accepting, but it's an accepting in the same way that Dragon Ball has blackface. Like, it's still homophobic. Like, they are being homophobic in that game by saying that you can defeat the big evil by being gay. I just found that so pandering that I turned off the game and never came back to it. I don't know if the hero actually is dead. Of course he's not, but I just could not care less. And what I'm trying to say is that shallow engagement with the subject matter at hand. I couldn't get through, I think it was 8. I couldn't get through 8 because the subject matter, the engagement with the subject matter was so shallow. And I remember reading a review, I believe it was for the most recent one. It might have been for 10, I think. I don't know what number. I think it was the most recent one, who talked about how, the characters are really colorful and every town is themed, and that's really cool. But we fantasy RPG gamers have been tired of the themed town and colorful characters as the only motif to keep us playing for a decade. So it's like Dragon Quest can't be among the big 3 because its motifs are a decade old. And Naruto and One Piece and Bleach are constantly at least trying to evolve to update their material for the time. And so I suppose what I was trying to do by introducing that franchise was maybe try to disqualify Tales.
For the same reasons.
By disqualifying Dragon Quest, maybe I was trying to disqualify Tales, but Tales goes there. Tales goes there, and Tales is, like, what I hated about Zillia was how hard it was trying to make the female characters sexually active, but also badass. And so my memory, could be very wrong, but my memory was having a hyper sexually aggressive 6-year-old female character and being like, okay, you've overcorrected too far. But that also seems to be a Japan thing. That Japan, a JRPG thing. It seems to be a Japan thing when they make materia for the West. When they make entertainment media for the West, they seem to make fundamental mistakes like that because their culture isn't Western. And so the JRPG, I think, has to be confused. It has to be a confusion of Western and specifically Japanese. And so I wonder if that isn't what excludes Atelier, because isn't Atelier made by a Chinese company? So doesn't that exclude it from being a JRPG? In fact, like, you can I was wondering about this. I took a break for about 30 minutes to see if I had any new thoughts on this, and really to double check back on my thoughts, to say them again out loud. And I was wondering if whether a Western company, like if BioWare couldn't make a JRPG in the same way that, like, Western studios make anime, or is JRPG the animification of a Western thing? So is it like anime Spider-Man is like JRPG, is the JRPG medium anime Spider-Man? And the answer might be yes. And so the JRPG might just be a flawed medium in the first place. It might, and what I like about it, what I've always loved about JRPGs, might be specifically the Western fantasy reinterpreted through a Japanese lens, because they love the genre so much that they want to reinterpret it with their culture and their lens and then sell it back to us. As a sort of imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, is a sort of flattery of how cool Tolkien is, or how cool, in fact, European mythology is. And the only places that I was able to find European mythology treated and handled with the care and the respect and the imitation that equals flattery was in JRPG. because Eastern, god damn it, Western RPGs are very disrespectful of their source material now because they're college students, and we've had this conversation about how college students are taught to be disrespectful of the culture in which they live. Maybe I haven't talked about that. Maybe when I said that it takes 30 years, that's why, is because we spend the first 30 years of our lives disrespecting, or not even the first 30, the first 40 to 50 years of our lives disrespecting the culture in which we live, and then it takes that 3 decades of separation from our 20s or from our teens to look back on them in any kind of meaningful way. Most people aren't looking back on their teens in their teens, and most certainly not in their 20s, and then again not in their 30s. And when you're in your 40s, what you're looking back on your 20s is to figure out why the fuck your marriage and your life are so fucked up. You're not worried about your teens. It's not till you have teenage grandchildren that you're remembering what it was like to be a teenager, because when you're in your 30s and you have a teenager, you're too close to the teenager to remember what it was like to be a teenager. And that goes back to the division of people, right? Parent, self, former, teen. And so I feel like I've wandered way. I don't remember how I got to where I was, so I don't remember where exactly I was. I was thinking about JRPG as an imitation of a purely Western art form, and so in a lot of ways it's like an ink painting of an alpine landscape. It's like, well, they've never been to the Alps. There's nothing wrong with that. That's not a negative criticism. In fact, I believe that what I said specifically is that I like that about it, is that I like the being able to see my culture reflected back to me through this other culture's lens. And I guess that's where Shin Megami Tensei comes in, because Shin Megami Tensei is almost a unifying theory of everything about mythology playing out with Japan as the center of the universe. Not just Japan, isn't it Tokyo? Doesn't it take place in Tokyo? Or maybe I just don't understand. Maybe I don't understand. I thought that the 5th one took place in like a suburb of Tokyo. Maybe it takes the suburb of Kyoto. Maybe I'm just confused and I don't know Japanese geography at all. I couldn't tell you. But I'm not sure that the Shin Megami Tensei series can be in the big, because until 5, it was extremely niche. Extremely. Especially in the West. In Persona, the whole protagonist having to shoot themselves with a metaphorical gun to summon their personas to do damage in combat was that was a bridge too far for me in 3. I had to quit playing 3 because I was unwilling to cast my spells, because I didn't like seeing the animation over and over. I just didn't like seeing it. It's meant to be disturbing because they're meant to be horror games. And so, and thinking about horror games has me thinking about like the Mary Skelter games. And that has me thinking about JRPGs for girls, and that there is a very distinct attempt by the developers to encourage girls to play JRPGs, and maybe that's what I'm thinking about, is maybe I'm wondering if I haven't included one of these that like is girl friendly, because I haven't played enough of the East series to really stand firm on that conclusion. And girls love Zelda, and girls love girls really like the Tales series too. Girls really like Zelda, and girls really like the JRPGs that are heavy on the RP. They like the Atelier series. They like Hyperdimension Neptunia.
The relationship sims.
And I've been trying to reverse engineer what it is that girls like about JRPGs, and what it is about the JRPG medium that seems to be more inviting to girls, or at least that the developers seem to think is more inviting to them than the Western. Because like there's still the perception that girls don't like or aren't meant to like, because girls frankly love the Elder Scrolls games. In fact, I know way more women that play Elder Scrolls than men. But there's this perception that girls aren't meant to like the Fallout series, which again, girls love. Girls love the Bethesda titles, and it's the RP. It's the RP. It's games that have a G. Girls are less inclined to love. So it's like Harvest Moon, Rune Factory, Harvestella, like the push now toward Japanese or at least JRPG developers to like go into the cozy game, which is what I'm associating with the cozy elements, or what I'm calling like the Atelier stuff. Why I'm saying that Atelier deserves on the list, because the push right now is to get girls to play JRPGs, and so you can really tell the difference. So like Hyperdimension Neptunia is so obviously for girls. There's just so much talking, and it's so about nothing, and it's beautiful and lovely, and most of it's really funny. But then Fairy Fencer is obviously supposed to be for boys, and it's the exact same setup. You have a bunch of girls, you're trying to make them more powerful, and you're allergic to girls, so it's obviously not sexual, but it's pretty girls being pretty, and pretty girls are pretty and mostly naked when it's targeted at girls, and they're pretty, and they'll allow you to do upskirts if it's for boys. They usually don't let you do upskirts in games for girls, so like the Atelier games won't let you position the camera in such a way that you can see the girl's underwear, but Hyperdimension Neptunia doesn't care, and Fairy Fencer, all of the girls' character models are designed so that you can see their panties. But then, like, the speaking of action RPGs, I don't know, because it's not a series, but I don't know that Yoko Taro doesn't belong in this conversation with the Dragon. Oh my goodness, I just forgot the name of that series.
Dragon Guard.
Holy crap! That's one of my very
really
very favorite series.
Dragon Guard and Nier aren't. They're not
I just
RPGs,
forgot.
They're action adventure games. Narrative dense action.
It just completely slipped my mind. But anyway, Nier Automata most specifically is what I'm talking about. Where like, if you upskirt on 2B long enough, she'll kick the camera away. Or in the original Nier, I don't remember her name, but the girl would attack the camera if you had it too close, or if you tried to upskirt for too long. But then you can also self-destruct 2B and just destroy her skirt, and then the game doesn't care if you do, intense upskirts or intense crotch shots. So clearly they knew that boys were going to play, and that boys were going to do that. So there is a difference. And so I wonder if, because the big three, Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach, skew really heavily toward a male audience. Really heavily toward a male audience. Now I know that girls are allowed to like One Piece and Bleach and Naruto,
I increasingly do.
Of those three, only Bleach, as far as I'm aware, has a large female fan base. I know that girls like Naruto and One Piece,
Netflix.
and I know that girls like to capitalize on cosplaying as characters from those games. But in my personal anecdotal experience, I have met exactly zero females that watch those shows, and the females that I know that habitually watch anime, the only long-running shonen type show that they do watch is Bleach, because Bleach leans more heavily toward the storytelling that a female audience would like. It's more emotional, I suppose, is how a Western 90s audience would say it. Like Final Fantasy VI, I read recently a contemporary American review that called it mushy, like lovey-dovey. And that all that emotion didn't fly in the American milieu, which the change really goes to speak to who your core demographics are, because like Dragon Age, the Dragon Age franchise, beloved of women. Girls love that shit. Mass Effect, beloved of women. These the cross genre RPG titles, Horizon Zero Dawn, beloved of women. Women really like these Western RPGs that are crossover, that are genre blending RPGs. And a lot of the reason is because they're genre blending. So because they're blended, they're not a space that's already occupied by toxic males. I can totally understand that, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But there's also something to the fact that, like, I skip these cutscenes and have no interest whatsoever in the romance. I do the romance because you need it in order to get a good ending. But, like, I remember being wildly annoyed with Dragon Age 2. Isn't that what it was called? When the Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2 and then Dragon Age Inquisition? Or did Dragon Age 2 have a... did it have a subtitle as well? I don't remember. But I remember being wildly annoyed that I romanced the guy that ends up being the villain like an idiot. I also always play female characters because the female love interests are always fucking annoying. And then I always find myself annoyed because I'm not actually romantically interested in these males. I'm just picking a male to be romantically interested in because I have to, because I chose to play a female character. So a lot of my dissatisfaction with these games, like Dragon Age, specifically the Dragon Age franchise, like writ large, but also Mass Effect, is that I play female characters in these games that want, that not just want, that need you to take a romantic love interest. But anyway, in Dragon Age 2, I remember taking the guy that ends up being the villain, and then I think I actually, like, killed him, but the game's epilogue gave me a "they lived happily ever after," but there was a horrible dramatic scene of me killing him with my bare hands, and it just did not mention that in the epilogue, and so it made my choice of romantic interest of waste of my fucking time. And they do that a lot. Mass Effect did that to me between Mass Effect 1 and 2. And then again between 2 and 3. And then, so like I have, in term, like Brotato terms, I have negative 100% interest in Baldur's Gate 3 for that very reason. That all of the promotional material is like, you can fuck a bear if you want. That it's just like, I have no interest in that shit. Like, I'm trying to think of another Western RPG that I tried to play recently that was a sequel. It's on the Switch. Maybe I'll record myself playing it. I have brought it up, but I need some feedback from you guys from what else you want to watch me play while I talk over, because it doesn't make sense to me to play anything that has dialogue or text boxes that or a story, a narrative for you to try to follow along with while I play it. My instinct is to play the original Final Fantasies. I would like to play 2 because I beloved 2, and I would really like to talk about why after having played several hours or maybe the entire game, but it's not about the narrative, and I don't want to demonstrate the narrative for you. So if I recorded myself playing a narrative-heavy RPG, I would only want to show the combat loop, because or at least the gameplay loops, because the narrative is the last thing that I'm playing a JRPG for, because of what I was talking about with the reinterpreting through a Japanese lens. The dialogue boxes have gotten out of control since the PlayStation 2. Just the amount of exposition and talky talks that go on in JRPGs has gotten completely out of control. And that's another thing that makes a JRPG, another element of a JRPG that makes a JRPG that Pokemon doesn't fall into, and that Final Fantasy and that Dragon Quest don't fall into, is the I believe they're called visual novels. The visual novel aspect of modern JRPG. Like, if you buy a JRPG, you can just expect to see two anime two-dimensional characters standing presented on either side of the screen with dialogue boxes between them, and them flipping through still images of their emotion as the conversation goes on for many minutes longer than what was necessary, because they're not animating the dialogue, so you don't have to be efficient with it. You don't have to use any kind of economy of storytelling. And so Japanese JRPGs also, they have no economy of storytelling. So if in doing this, we're also critiquing the genre in a lot of ways. I suppose that's what I'm doing.
Because of the Japanese script,
they're typified by an absolute dearth of economy of storytelling, and a lot of that is because of what a JRPG is, and sort of what the goal or the challenges that are set before you when you choose to make a JRPG. So when you choose to make a JRPG, or when you choose to make an RPG, you have a 60-hour benchmark. And I don't know why 60 hours is the mark, but 60 hours is the mark. That's what we decided in the 90s. I know that I wouldn't buy a game if the boxes used to tell you the estimated hours playtime in a game. And I wouldn't buy a game that the number was smaller than 40, but 60 was what I was looking for, especially in an RPG, and particularly in a JRPG. And so a lot of what's going on, because of the medium, the genre, because of the things that the audience have determined are necessary, there's a lot of padding. And so JRPGs are analogous to anime, especially to shonen anime, and in that padding thing that you're going to get a lot of unnecessary filler. And so a lot of that unnecessary filler is having a big world with lots of cities to explore. And so Final Fantasy, having played all of the... Did I get his name right when I said Yoshinori Kitase? No. Having played the first 10 extensively now, having beaten the first 6 now, all of them multiple times. Final Fantasy tries to justify every point of interest on the map with at least some quest, some story element. And even if it's story element at point X on the map, lots and lots and lots and lots of random encounters, story element at point Y on the map. And then those two things maybe don't lead to a Z or from a WX? Yeah, I got it right. But like the first Final Fantasy is strung together by a series of quests. Your broad goal is to heal the crystals, and then you're led to the crystals by a series of broad fetch quests for the most part. And 2 is largely the same. There's a political story going on behind it, but you hit all of the access points to make the story move by going through a long series of combat encounters. And then 2 introduce a little bit more of a dialogue Western style thing where you have to like engage with characters and talk to characters. But for the most part in the Final Fantasy series, you advance by the role playing that you do is talking to NPCs, just getting the information of the world from NPCs, and then the game is going from point of interest, exploring the world and getting a broader understanding of the evolution and the further twists and turns of the story as it's being presented to you.
Correct.
That's not what Western RPGs are like at all. Like that isn't what Skyrim is like at all. And so that's what I mean by linearity, and that's what Western people criticize when they talk about the game being too linear. Is the game takes you from quest to quest to quest, main quest, story quest as we understand it now from MMOs. Story quest, we go quest to quest to quest to quest to quest to quest. And each stop doesn't have optional stuff to do. So, like, when you play The Witcher 3 now, you do your story quest and you have a near infinite number of side quests to do in that town. Or, like, I've been thinking about maybe what I'll do is I'll play Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, because that's a game I really like. um,
Lore is a game that I am
and
planning for
haven't
the
played for a
channel.
long time, and
And why I
haven't
haven't
really
gone
had
back
the
to it is
justification to go
something like
back and
that
beat it on the
that I
hardest
thought that we'll
difficulty,
talk
like to
about.
put up with the difficulty, the frustration because I don't need the vanity and I'm on the Switch. I can't get achievements, which I hate. Nintendo, fix that. Fix that. Why is yours the only platform to play video games on that I don't have achievements that I can share with and compare against my friends? Fix that. Damn it. Or maybe I'd just be mad at Steam for introducing the concept in the first place. Or maybe I just need to be annoyed with individual developers that they don't have the achievements just baked into the code of the game. I don't know. I hate it. I hate it that I don't have any reason to play video games twice on the Switch. I don't have goals built into the game after I've beaten it. I hate that. That's annoying.
Every Switch game suffers for that.
JRPGs have gotten better, but they've gotten better at that by leaning harder into what makes Western RPGs sell well.
Dragon's Dogma.
And so I know that I've said my 3 titles about a half hour ago, and that now I've just been waffling and double checking my terminology and seeing if I can stretch this out to 2:15 like I usually do, so I don't have to worry about if I have a winning run in Brotato that's fewer than 60 minutes long, which is what I was thinking about at the 45-minute mark 45 minutes ago. So when I come back to it and I circle back around it, I ask myself, do I agree with Ys as the action adventure title? I haven't played enough of them to know whether the town building and harvesting, farming, self-sufficiency thing is in all of them, but it's most certainly in 10. I've played a little bit of 10. That's another one that's another series that I get to play in it, and then I get to thinking like, maybe I need to just be recording myself to get through this, because Ys is so like Zelda in that you just explore Ys 10 anyway.
8.
I think that's the one I'm playing. I'm playing Lacrimosa of Dana.
Yeah, that's 8.
And playing is a strong word for what I'm doing.
Yes.
Played for several hours one time a few weeks ago is what I did. And it's very much like the old school. Well, it's very much an old school JRPG, and I like that. I like that it stayed old school. And so I don't know how many of the... I also own Origins, but those are the... I think 11. I think I own 11 too, but I don't think I've installed it.
11 hasn't been released.
Because I wanted to beat 10, and I wanted to see if, because they put Origins, maybe they were going to put, the first 9 on the Switch. But I believe that the company that owns the first 9 titles might have told fans and gamers to get fucked, even though the company that the other companies that cannibalized the company that originally made Ys are remaking all of their titles. So who fucking knows?
They're readily available.
The video game industry is so confused and so confusing right now. It's like there are enough people my age that really, really want to play these old titles that they missed out on, that they would sell, but they wouldn't sell well enough to justify the huge number of people it requires to actually go through the brute force of remaking what was at the time a AAA game. So it's a conundrum. Really, it's not. It really isn't. There are enough people with degrees and with the know-how and with the ability to do the thing. What there isn't is enough liquid cash flowing around in the video game industry to just have like a company that does remakes. There are companies that handle them, but that's not all that they do. So like even the company that did Final Fantasy, but Square Enix's Pixel Remasters, even that company within Square Enix, they make original titles. I mean, that's how you get Octopath Traveler and Triangle Strategy. And
neither of which is
Triangle Strategy and Octopath Traveler actually are the prime examples of imitation being flattery, falling really, really short. because those games are trying to be pure Western RPGs with JRPG sensibilities, and they fall entirely flat on what a Western RPG is. Octopath Traveler is so far removed from what we actually want it to be that it's really hard for me to play it for more than a few hours at a time. The combat making me choose every move I make like it's the most important thing in the world in trash fights is so tedious. And then the whole acquiring your party being optional or incidental to playing thing, you have to grind so much to get to I don't know. I don't know. The game is not balanced well for what it says it wants to do unless you're playing it in the easy mode. And if you're playing it in easy mode,
why the fuck are you playing?
You're offending my sensibilities as a person who played Final Fantasy, which was until 12 hard mode. But that's a different conversation. Hard mode in video games, whether video games should be difficult or not, is a different conversation, and it's really a conversation that I can wrap up quickly because video games were hard when you had to pay quarters to play them, so they could be profitable to the people that bought the machine, and they were hard when video games only sold to Blockbuster, so that Blockbuster could make money off you having to rent it multiple times. So, like, difficulty in video games is an artificial part of the medium. Once cartridges and once consoles themselves, but once video gaming. I mean, if you lived the 2000s, if you're in your 30s, you lived this, you watched it happen. If you remember Dark Souls hitting the market, not even Dark Souls, Demon Souls. If you remember when Demon Souls was first being advertised, not even released. You remember that video games got really, really painfully easy for a while because you owned it. The power fantasy of playing a video game was complete by the cycle of paying the $60 for the fucking disc. There was a point where we were like, $50, $60 for a game just to punish me over and over and over, and I never get to enjoy it and all of my, and it being a skill thing, like video games being a skill, like a game. And gate kept by the skill and by score, that went away when we hated that. Once we were buying them and they were staying in our homes. And then skill and difficulty became a thing, became a point of pride. But there were always difficult games. Like when I was talking about that 60-hour padding and having lots of places to go, the other way that you padded your game was by requiring a lot of grinding. So the first 7 or 8, 9, 10 Final Fantasies really, and this is something about retro games that I'm finding in general, especially in remakes, that make them easier and more accessible to a modern audience that doesn't play JRPGs and doesn't have 100 hours to sink into one video game because they don't want to fall that far behind in the dialogue of the most important new games that have come out. So games are no longer trying to be long, and so JRPGs almost disincline people to buy them because they know that you're going to have to sit down for 60 hours with a JRPG. When I was talking about Disgaea, like, that you're sitting down for an infinite amount of time with this game. But JRPGs, there are also RPGs that are made with the sentiment of Kingdom Hearts, where they want to be the only game you play that year. And so lots of grinding but it's built into the way that the game is presented, that you end up spending a lot of time in or around a town, these points of interest, because you're supposed to be grinding in them. So like in the original Final Fantasy, the first, you end up getting really well acquainted with the dungeons, and like people make fun of me that I still remember, I can still path most of the dungeons in Final Fantasy VI right to their end through memory, because you end up spending a lot of time in them, and so the there being multiple kinds of games, JRPG developers suffer from people wanting to do like the Mario thing where you hop among the different worlds and you can go wherever you want and you can play the different stages again and you don't have to grind, but you have to practice. But I'm way off what I'm talking about. I don't even remember. I know that I've wandered away from any kind of cogent thought. I'm comparing things that don't make sense to compare in the sense and the context of whether Ys belongs on the list. But I think that Ys might be a good example of the action RPG genre because it's old, it's been around forever, and people play it. It's a good way to introduce people to the idea of the action RPG because Ys is Monster Hunter, but with people. More obviously with and about people, like you have a party and you have all these relationships, etc. And I don't know that Monster Hunter isn't fundamentally an RPG. And so I don't know that maybe Monster Hunter isn't the better example to put here, or like, and I'm pretty sure that all three of these are from the same company, but like the Warriors, like Dynasty Warriors, might actually be a better example of the action JRPG genre, if I'm thinking in those terms. But if I'm trying to include as many different aspects of Japanese gaming in one title as possible, I think that Ys 10, at least, is a good example of the self-sufficiency, the farming, the crafting, the making your own weapons, the improving, the stuff that you've got, and the relationships, the friends, the neighbors, the family, the town that you're developing out, that it can encompass Atelier, Harvest Moon, Dynasty Warriors, Kingdom Hearts, all of those kind of games. Devil May Cry, Bayonetta. I'm trying to see how broad my knowledge of this genre is and whether I'm just too broadly ignorant of the genre to even have this conversation, which is not what you do an hour and 45 minutes into a conversation. And so I think Ys is right. I think Ys is right because Ys is Zelda enough that I don't have two Nintendo titles, because I went through and I agree with Fire Emblem enough that I don't think I need to qualify it again, because enough people play it, it's anime enough, kids love it, enough said. And then
what did I get on the other side of that?
People love Dragon Quest, and I really appreciate that people love Dragon Quest and that Dragon Quest does big numbers. And I really appreciate that Final Fantasy is a long series and it's a brand that still exists, but Final Fantasy hasn't existed since the original director. Final Fantasy hasn't been Final Fantasy since the original director left. So I don't count Final Fantasy anymore among even franchises.
Neither do I.
So Tales. I still think I agree with Tales. Tales needs to release another one soon.
I think they did.
For me to agree wholeheartedly with that. But they recently released the one Symphonia that everyone loves. And so that counts enough as like Naruto doing a more succinct updated version of the original manga run or whatever, sort of like what Brotherhood is to Full Metal Alchemist.
But I got a while, really, before we're going to
sort
the
of.
next floor.
They're not one for one, but we're not talking in one for ones.
We're really trying to get
and
to
so
level 8 before we even start to think about getting. Oh my
there was a
I bet you I didn't. I bet you I need to run from this.
franchise that I thought of in my mind.
Well, here we can try.
I may have said it out loud.
Yeah, we'll try it.
That makes me wonder whether there doesn't need to be a fourth category altogether.
No.
Like that just needs to be the big four. But since we're sticking to anime, there isn't a big four. If there were a big four, it would obviously be Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, the Dragon Ball continuity, and I've already said that Final Fantasy is that.
That's Tails.
So
Or
have
no,
I
it's Legend
have
of
I said
Heroes.
everything that I want to say? Have I said everything on this subject that there is to say? Everything
That's
I
not
thought I've
Dragon
thought?
Ball.
Probably not.
That's more like Dragon Quest. I was wrong about that.
First person RPGs. First person, specifically dungeon crawlers,
Yeah, specifically first-person dungeon crawlers.
because
that's
there are a
basically
lot of those
the,
now, like the
Shin
university
Megami Tensei.
games
Oh my
where
God. Digital Devil
you
Story. That's it.
you
As far as old school.
are a teacher developing
Otherwise,
in
they're
short
aping this
windows
game, if they're doing
classes of
shit.
RPG characters where you've transcended even being in a party, where what's important about you and how you're important to the game is how you develop these people to go out on their imaginary adventures. Like, that is its own genre of JRPG, the school game, and
I didn't know
that's
this is
sort
what this
of
game was at the
where I
time.
was when I was talking
That's why
Shin
I'm
Megami
playing it.
Tensei Persona, because there are a fuckload of Shin Megami Tensei / Persona ripoffs. And now, I mentioned NIS. I mentioned the NIS in Nippon Ichi Software, and NIS is the they're the damn Kmart of excellent knockoff games. Like, they take a base premise of one major AAA title, turn it into a double A or a single A game, or even a B game, and take the gameplay that was in the AAA game and just turn it up to 11. And if it was at 11, they turn it up to 22. It's incredible what NIS is able to do with just playable, functional, good games, especially in the second tier pricing market. It's really incredible. Now you'll very rarely be able to have conversations with people about NIS's games. But I'm thinking about Void Terrarium, and where games like Void Terrarium,
I was trying to remember Void
or
Terrarium yesterday.
I think it's called Monster Cuisine,
Yep, I was trying to think of
where
those
games like that,
yesterday.
where dungeon crawlers and loot
I didn't
grinders
I didn't
come
know
into
those are built,
the trifecta.
Based on the East system, and knowing that makes them more interesting to me now. They were hard for me
Dungeon
to play at the time 'cause
crawling
I
in
didn't
general.
understand what the hell, why they
But
were
if
the way they were with
East
the barbed
Origins
combat.
is anything like the other 9 East games, it might also encompass the dungeon crawling thing, because East Origins,
I
you're
worked my
scaling
way
a
there. I
tower
figured
like
it
in
out. I was
Persona
right about
3,
this.
and that's a pretty common element in the dungeon crawler, the university, the loot grinding RPGs, and a lot of them are in their way aping Diablo, the loot grinder Western RPG, and the loot grinder Western RPG very frequently isn't even considered an RPG. Like most people wouldn't say that you're playing a Western RPG when you play Diablo,
They wouldn't
or
consider that. They'd
the
just call
games
that a
like
grinder. They
Diablo.
don't,
So
point
maybe
and
what
click
I'm
grinder
doing
on
is
or
I'm
whatever. Most
overthinking
people
it
do
and
not
trying to
consider that an
include.
RPG.
But a lot of people play Japanese loot grindy games. So maybe East just
I'm gonna be
maybe
treating
East
Final Fantasy
captures
VIII
all of
exactly
that,
like
because
later
my
today, and
understanding
I'm
of
looking
the
forward
original
to it.
East games is that
It's
their
a lot of fun.
combat was more
You just
like
take it the
Gauntlet
way they do.
Legends, and that you just kind of like hack your way through stuff, and that's how Void Terrarium and the other games in that milieu, that genre, that milieu might be the right word actually, that style, that feel that I've played. So maybe Ys counts for that. I shouldn't include Ys. But so Ys is the loot grinding, actiony dungeon crawler JRPG, and that's One Piece. And Tales is Bleach. And so does that make...
Shit, you do not have enough spell
Why
slots
can't
for
I
me to be
keep all
doing
three
this.
of these in my head at once? Because I've chosen franchises that I don't play a lot of, but that other people play a lot of.
Correct, sir.
Dang, it's gone. Where it was Ys and Tales and... You're screaming at me right now. You know what it is. I've said it so many times.
Ogre battle.
Oh my goodness, I can't even...
Yeah, too
Fire
tired.
Emblem. My goodness.
Brain stopped working.
Yeah,
Fire
including
Emblem.
including two franchises that I've only played a few hours of was not the best choice for my memory. But I'm trying to be fair. I'm trying to disregard my biases and really disregard the biases of the average Western gamer and really get to the heart of what's played. Not just played by the West, but what's actually played in the East as well.
Yeah, people are
And it
actually
really,
watching One Punch,
whether
Naruto,
it's
and Bleach.
because it's the big three, right? It doesn't have to be the best selling, and it doesn't have to be the most influential, and it doesn't have to be the best. But I really do think that East represents that genre, and Tales represents the games that are trying to catch up with or keep up with or be spiritual successors to. Tales represents the games that want to be played when you're done playing Final Fantasy. They're the games that want to be played between Final Fantasy titles, because JRPGs expect that you're going to play one game this year. Like Xenoblade, when you buy Xenoblade Chronicles, you're expected to only play that until Xenoblade Chronicles 2 comes out. Or when now that you've got Xenoblade 3, they expect you to play that until Xenoblade 4 comes out. And that's also the case with Fire Emblem. And a lot of that is what video games have learned, especially Japanese developers have learned from the MMORPG market, and how much money you can actually make in the DLC market, the aftermarket. And thus has been learned from Monster Hunter and the expansions of that and the DLC for that. And
patches
but
since
also
the console, since the Famicom.
I don't know. I don't know that I don't know why there's a different design philosophy. They've learned that people are willing to play one game so long as you're willing to update it. And so Pokemon in that way, is that it does fit into that, and it is. That's why I say it's skinned like a JRPG. The Game Freak, I believe, are the developers, the Pokemon company. They've learned the lessons of the games that they love to play, and the games that they clearly grew up playing, and the games that they clearly love to play are JRPGs. That doesn't make their game a JRPG. Any way that Unpacking is an action RPG. And so I'm nearing the end here, and I'm creaky, and I'm running out of ideas, and I've circled through this at least 3 times now to make sure that what I was saying is right. And I don't like not including Harvest Moon, because there's a place for it. Because it
RPGs, though.
inspired not just a whole generation, but it continues to inspire generations of what can be done in an RPG, and what kinds of core gameplay loops that you can have and still be playing a role-playing game. but I don't think it's analogous in the big three. And I don't think that if I were going to make a big four, if I were going to 2 hours, an hour and 58 minutes into this conversation, try to pivot to likening them to the big four of thrash metal, I think that metaphor would be too tortured to try to include another. And really, just for my closing comments now, that I think I've said everything that I had to say. My mind is increasingly empty of words, so that's the place I was trying to get to, and I'm always trying to get to when I'm recording these. My closing thoughts are that I'm stoked that Nintendo and Squaresoft and Square Enix, by extension, have been able to work out their differences, and Super Mario RPG is coming to the Switch. That is and has been for a very long time my absolute most very favoritist RPG ever. Maybe even my very most favoritist video game ever. It was the first one I ever bought in the box.
I don't stand by that anymore, but great game.
I thought I was the coolest kid in the world. The second game I ever bought in the box was Breath of Fire 3. I already know from what little I've watched of it that I'm going to be disappointed by the remaster. I think they could have done more to make it look more modern, but I'm also going to be charmed by how much it looks like I remember from my childhood, but only in a better resolution.
Yeah.
So what I need to do is hope and pray that the company that makes Triangle Strategy is hired by Nintendo because pre-orders were high enough to make the next Paper Mario game, and that the next Paper Mario game isn't boring and doesn't have no RPG elements. Because Paper Mario is supposed to be the spiritual successor to Mario RPG, Super Mario RPG, and every installment of Paper Mario. I've only played the one that's on the Switch, the Origami King, I believe it's called, and the one that's available on the 64 emulator. I think that's the first Paper Mario. I haven't beaten either of them. I think I'm at the second to last boss, maybe the second to last world, I don't know, of Origami King. I got bored. I hated the combat system, and the combat system for the boss fights. Just, I don't like losing, and I don't like doing a fight in a video game, a combat encounter, more than a few times. And I really don't like games where I'm not allowed to grind. Like, I'm not allowed to, okay, well, fine, if I can't figure out how to do this, I can at least make myself more powerful so I can take a few more hits while I figure it out. And you can't do that in Paper Mario. There's another game that I recently played, another Chrono Trigger alike, that had that problem where it had specific number. It had spawns. The enemies spawned, but when you left and came back into a room, they didn't respawn. So there were only a specific number of enemies that you could fight at any moment, and so you could never even get even with the combat encounters. And I understand that, like I was saying, that there's a difficulty that you're trying to achieve with the JRPG style game. And when you're a Western developer making a JRPG, you're lacking a lot of institutional memory, and so what you don't understand is that the difficulty is optional. Like Final Fantasy VI had an optional difficulty scaling in that your characters didn't gain base statistics every level. They only gained statistics when they were carrying an Esper, and so that has a difficulty built into it, where you don't want to get too powerful before you have the Espers that you want to level, but you also don't want to be so weak that every trash and combat encounter is a boss fight. And that leads us back to why I don't like Octopath Traveler. Is it's like you can largely skip the trash and Octopath Traveler. The game is pretty generous about that. You can get right to the boss fights, but then there are boss fights that are so difficult that there's nothing that even accurately managing the weaknesses, there's nothing you can do until you're at a certain level appropriate to the boss, which means grinding out the gear, which means that you can what's the word I'm trying to you can you have level caps that you have to achieve, which means that you have to spend a certain amount of time
Thresholds.
grinding and leveling, which is back to the JRPG element, that there's a certain amount of management that you have to do. There's a certain amount of character development that you're forced to engage with because it's a JRPG. And that
That's not
puts
necessarily a
us at
bad
the
thing.
2 hours and 3 minute mark. And I think that I've said everything that I have to say about the conversation of what should be the big three JRPGs, what makes a JRPG. And I haven't really said anything about what JRPGs need to do better, because JRPGs right now are having a little bit of a heyday. Um, there are a lot of good ones coming out. There are a lot of them that are being released by
Yep.
Western markets that are going to
The
do
year
poorly,
I
which means
recorded
that
that,
NIS and the good companies are going to
Metaphor
swoop in and figure out what
Refantasio
they've done
won
wrong and make
Game
even
of the
better
Year,
ones.
and
Um,
the
Dragon Quest has
subsequent year, last year, a mock a game that was basically the imitation equals flattery of JRPGs. A Western French studio made a JRPG, exactly what I was talking about, called it Clair Obscure Expedition 33, and it won literally every prize available to be won in 2025. So the conversation that I was having and the questions that I was asking and the heart of that podcast was prescient, because the games awards industry, whether they were thinking about it or not, certainly acted on the things that I was describing at the time I was describing them. So now I want to break from hearing my voice for a while. I might actually want to break from this game. That these last couple, this floor starting over my grind by killing all my dudes has kind of upset me. It's kind of just tipped over my apple cart a little bit. I was doing really well, and now I'm not doing really well anymore. And that's just how this game goes. You just have one bad lap, and suddenly, boom, you're in debt to Jesus, to God Himself, and I totally understand that. That's how my life goes. Uh, yeah, thanks for sitting and listening to that with me. I've been thinking about that conversation a lot the last few months, but I couldn't remember what I said, and nobody else knew what I said. Nobody else listened to it, and so I thought, well, the worst that I can do is listen to it again, and the best I can do is listen to it again where other people can listen, and for someone to actually do that. And then, like, maybe the A plus version of that is for somebody to ask me why I don't do that specific format anymore. And the answer is that I do. I just spend the whole time being interrupted with non sequitur questions that don't have anything to do with what I'm talking about. And so I get emotionally and cognitively taxed, and I just stop. Okay. It's probably wise for me to just go back, since I got so many people who are leveled. I was kind of hoping it was more, this run was more about making money. I don't have any. I don't have enough. So yeah, thank you guys. I hope you understand that even talking about it isn't throwing shade at anybody. It's not talking shit. And vitality. Okay. You're getting better, let me get that. You're getting better. You're getting worse. Yikes. You're getting a lot worse, actually. Wish you had more HP, Karma. I didn't mean to make two priests, but I have them, so now I got two priests. When the sun gonna shine. I thought that Karma Bites was a black mage, well, a wizard, like Tragan, and she is not. Now, what time is it? Yeah, I guess we'll go until my internet breaks. Once the internet disconnects, it's going to end this live, and then we'll see what I do. I might go to Kingdom Heart. No, wait a minute. I might go to Final Fantasy VIII, or I might take a nap. I didn't even look at what time it is. It's 3:20. Yeah, I'm not gonna take a nap. We'll see what happens. I might need a break from this. I might need something just a little bit more active. So maybe I download Doom or something. It's a little bit more button mashy. Maybe I sit and I edit Kingdoms of Amalur episode 3 and then or maybe I just be done with that particular character and start over again. I'm always starting over. But conceptually it's about getting the right fit, right? So this run is technically a start over. But it was about getting the right fit. Why did I come down to this floor? Whatever, I'm fine. I got 2 levels. Jesus. I'm not really that fine. Okay. Yeah, we're in a bad way. Oof. Please, no paralysis, no poison. I should have just used the damn AoE spell. Swing. No paralysis, no poison. What is it? What do they say? No whammy, no whammy, no whammy. Fuck. Crystal, you suck. You're not good. You're very bad. It's highly annoying. Oh, you motherfucker. You got poisoned again. Is that double poison? Certainty of an exploding box. 60 gold is not enough to justify the expense of coming down here. Motherfucker. Nah, it is, actually. It didn't cost that much. Crystal, I'm gonna need you to calm down with taking so much damage. Oh, but Malarkey leveled, so that works. Alright, here we go. Malarkey's gonna get that heal. Oh god. Malarkey, you wanna get that heal for me? Sweet cheeks. White spells. Dios. Huh. You have quite a few of those. You wanna go ahead and use them up? Schwang, cause you're about to go to the guy, so what the heck, right? Karma, you're next. Get it? Yeah, we made it. Good job. I should have healed her. Bing, 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 bang, bong. I'll do it. Nice. That was a good level. 19 hit points. Malarkey. What the fuck, Malarkey? Why are you such a badass, girl? Give me a second here. Wait a minute. Everybody stand still. Malarkey's a badass. Yikes is gonna die in the front row, but Malarkey's got more health than Crystal. Do I? All of my. Oh boy. Mage, priest, samurai. All dead. Not awesome. Really? Wow, that sucks for them. Okay, Crystal, you're bad. You are bad at this thing we are trying to do. So what am I going to do about that, Crystal? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the maze. And I'm going to, you didn't have to do the full loading screen thing. And we're going to go. Try again is not a healer. Karma is, though. Karma says healing crystal, healing crystal, healing crystal, healing crystal. Uh-huh. Good job. And then Malarkey says, hey, I can do that too. Oh, he'll try again, and try again, and try again, and one more time. Good job, everybody. Now we go back up here one more time. Just in case that guy looks cool. Wouldn't you like to be that guy? Have a sweet arm like that? Probably not. Alright, everybody's got spells. Now we need to go make, give or take, 2,100 gold. You ready, boys? Everybody stay alive. We got two ladies on the front row. The game doesn't know the difference, so it shouldn't affect anything. It shouldn't affect anything if the game did know a difference. Okay, that's the way to the next floor. We're not doing that. I don't know whether I've searched this. Yeah, I know I have searched this. I don't know whether I've searched this. I know that I found. I do think I've searched this. Yikes, I'm dead. Yikes, I'm dead. Oh, shoot. That's sweet. That's convenient. This is good XP. There we go. I would love to find a ranged weapon. God damn it. I'm gonna be back in that same spot where I am gonna be back in that same damn spot. The poison, man. Where I can't get over the antidote threshold. Huh. I have this patch of dry skin inside my fingers that itches and kinda hurts. Ow. More than kinda. Oh, okay, it's alopecia. It's just an alopecia breakout that I've exacerbated by scratching. Never mind. The skin follicles, the hair gets really sensitive. It itches and hurts. I know what that is. I recognize it. That happens all the time. Happens on my head and on my face a lot. Sometimes on my legs. And it's never happened on my hand before, but here we are. You say no chest? Or no trap? Oh, look at that. Christy is... Crystal... I swear to God, dude. You could have leveled before, but no. It's actually good that you saved it. Let's go back upstairs so I don't have to waste as many heals as I would otherwise. Come on, Crystal. Drag your hippie ass. You had so better get, like, I don't know. Look Look at where Lemmy is. Get fucking. Oh, I didn't mean to hit that button, but that's the button I hit. So here we are. Look where Lemmy's at, man. I'm gonna actually go back down here. I'm gonna bitch it, Crystal, some more. 52 HP, man. You should be somewhere closer to 52 HP than you are to 20. What are you doing? What are these? What are your dice rolls that you're getting per level, man? This is awful. Start over. Get it right. Alright, here we go, Crystal. Get it right. 1 HP is not getting it right. And why intellect? I swear to God, Crystal. I'm gonna beat you with a board that's got a bunch of fucking nails strapped to fucking bombs. Kinda like in Brotato. I didn't even look at how much money I made because there's no way it was. What? More than a few gold. Jerk. Alright, yikes, I'm dead. Let's go. Level 8. Here we go. I believe in you. Be my first level 8 character. I believe in your ability to get there and not die on the way. You haven't died yet. In fact, you were on the front row for a minute. You're terrible DPS, by the way. Yikes. We gotta work on that. Yikes. You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay. I have been here before, because there was a whole key right here. Where you'd find a half a key. I don't know. Okay, I don't remember there being a key. Now I'm second guessing myself. I don't remember finding anything in here. Was there anything to find? No, you know what this looks like. It's another big. It's just a big, pretty design. There's nowhere for it to go. But we can map it out again. You've done it so many times. Nobody else gives a shit. Go do it. Tell them that you are the boss. Show them that you are the boss. Try again. And fireball. Down onto your head that you are all now dead. Good. That's much better than being paralyzed. But that also means that we have a hard cap on how many times we can do that. Alright, disarm trap. 0% certainty. No trap found. 80 golds. Each everybody gets 13 golds. How many golds we has? Okay, I can do that. 13 times 6. Wow, you look a lot dumber than I thought. It's 78. It's probably not right. No, it's 7. 13 times 6 has to be 78. What am I doing? Sorry. Double checking my math. That's why. Inspectorate. Certainty of spinning blades traps. Failed to disarm. Yikes, I need you to not get us killed. Sweet nuts. Alright, everybody received 20 guard. This, no one finds. Okay, that was where the frog was. I remember things. So it was on this side. Nothing. Nothing. Don't be like that. You keep your attitude to yourself. Nothing. Whatever, man. You have to be like that. Big fire. We're fucked. Time to run. Okay, fight. 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 Instead of praying, what we're going to do is run. Like hell. Oh no. Yes. No. Oh wait, yes. Good, good, yes. Yes, take it. Oh. goodness. Take it, Halito. No. Okay, it hit me, but no point. No, okay. Damn it. Just gotta stop thinking about poison when they attack me. I am poisoning me by thinking about it so much. Attacks. 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 Parry. Fire spell. Don't use up your healing slots. Malarkey, you're a badass. You're my fucking hero. Get us out of this dungeon, and I'll buy you a soda pop at the store. Try again. You have to make this happen for me. Otherwise, we're never gonna make it to the chicken sandwich shop. Oh, God. The time has come. We're going to fly the pennant in the World Series. Opened her chest in. Alright, that's actually probably enough of those that I can actually go home. And look at that, Malarkey and Karma have leveled. So we can go back to the surface. I'm coming! I'm coming, Mother! Ugh. You don't want to say that too many times. Alright. Long sections of silence. That's what we're talking about right now. Malarkey, maybe. Let's do it. And intelligence and strength and agility and luck. Maybe 18 is where it caps. It's fine with that. Okay. Karma. Heck yes, a yes. You're better now. Alright, now we should be able to... Can I? Can I bring... I cannot bring these nuts back to life. These nuts! No! I miss these nuts. These nuts has left a hole in my party that I've been filling with double entendres that aren't coming to mind because I'm tired. I didn't eat enough calories. Okay. Huh. I always feel like there should be a hidden wall there. Okay, so this is where the statues went. You put them in that room right there that I'm walking away from. I know this is nothing. I remember this is nothing. Hey, what's up, robed man? You're a wizard boy. And you surprised me. Ow. That caught us as a total surprise. Goodbye, asshole. Dickhead. Yeah. We use big boy bad words. I swear, big boy. I know this is nothing as well. That's gonna ramp around and it's the wall. And this is where we found something. No, it's not. Oh, here we go. Or maybe this wraps around and makes the wall. It does this. Oh, what's this? Oh, I remember what this is. This is nothing. Hey, Bearhead. Unlock the statue out of the bear with the froggy boy. I remember. I just like unlocking doors. You know? You're not the boss of me. You're not my fucking dad. What are you, the hall monitor of the internet? What, am I having too much fun? Maybe I am. Oh, God. This needs to stop happening. That, and Malarkey says, I got it. Uh-oh, no it doesn't. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is this. We're running like babies. We are running like babies. Running like girl baby children. Why? Because we don't want to be dead. We want to be alive. We're too young to be already dead. Alright, here we go. Get the hell out of there. Let's go. Why am I going back upstairs? Oh, right, because see, in order for me to continue, we try again has to have AP, has to have spell slots. It is not accomplishable if I don't have AoE. In fact, I'd really like to change Karma into a damn mage. I meant for Karma, whoops, Karma to be a mage. I would also really like to be able to kill that motherfucking ghost. Because that's the move, man. If I could just whack on that ghost a handful of times, kill it, get that 4,000 experience or whatever, that would be the move. Bro, check this out. You're not my motherfucking dad. These nuts has returned to the living. Resurrection successful. These nuts is ready to join the party again. So you know what that means? It means that I love you, Karma, but you're a liability to me. Also you too, Crystal. Ah, Crystal, no. You're who I meant to get rid of for these nuts. And so you know what that means? That means I'm doing it. You're not my dad. Stop raising your voice at me. I am doing it. Yeah. Oh my god. 27 points from me? Well, you shouldn't have. Really, you shouldn't have. That was too many. For just a little baby boy like me. Sexy man, child. Hey. One. Oh. Ha! I was able to get there. Alright. So she said. And now we go change position. D's nuts. You go into the front row. Uh-huh. Let me get that. D's nuts. Malarkey maybe. Fuck yeah. And then we got One Eye Willa down here. The mage with such low health. Oh man. Um Hey D's nuts. You want 3 HP for all my money? Hey Malarkey. You want to burn up all your spell slots and come back to the inn? Like if they didn't want it done this way, they would have made the inn more expensive. Dun 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 dun. And they would have made that take that like they would have made that significantly more time consuming. Alright, One Eye Willa. I need you to level quickly. How long is it going to take you to level? Malarkey's gonna stay first. But I need to know how long Willa's gonna take. 1100 XP. Oh boy. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Okay. By the time Willa levels, again, is gonna try again. Is gonna level 2. So we're in a good spot right now. In a good spot. We can stay in the dungeon until try again's out of mana, and then we turn around and come back. Spell slots, mana. Don't even get at me. Don't even get at me with that. I know it's not MP. Kobolds and those guys. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fight, 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 fight. Yeah, we can fight our way through these. These are unlikely to be able to hurt us. These nuts, you're such a badass dude. Our other friends might stay dead for a minute. So long as we don't end up needing them. Because 1,500 gold is how much that damn armor that D's nuts is wearing. So I could spend the 2,400 gold to bring back the 2 people I have who are dead. Or I could get the 3K together to get Malarkey, no, to get, Yikes, I'm Dead should be in the front row. But to get Yikes I'm Dead, the armor upgrade, and to get let me get that an armor upgrade. Actually, let me just do that real quick. No, because Malarkey does more damage because Malarkey has a better weapon. It doesn't make any sense. Just because I gave... Oh, you know what does make sense, though? Check this out. No, this makes sense. Come here, we go shield, give to Malarkey, equip. That makes sense. And now we give Malarkey this shield so that Malarkey has an appropriate amount of AC. Huh? Smart boy? Smart boy. I agree, I am a smart boy. No, you just keep your praise to yourself. It's too much. You're embarrassing me. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Smart boy indeed. Maybe she was right. Maybe I am doomed to amount to nothing. Halito, motherfucker. Wait. I'm gonna have some fun. Halito and Willa, you can do... Oh, no you can't. Never mind. Oh. Halito, you're a freaking caster. I forgot that you were a mage. I thought you were a fucking priest again. Whoosh. Set you on fire. Ow. Ow, my back row. Please don't hit One-Eyed Willa. Thank you. One-Eyed Willa wants to participate. Yeah, fuck you. One-Eyed Willa did some damage. She didn't just do some damage, she did, she got a kill. It'd be cool if that were bonus experience, since it counts their kills. Disarm, I didn't even look. No trap, nice. Try again leveled, good, good, that means we're gonna level, that Willow will level on the next one. Don't want to go that way, we can just turn around and go right back. Willow's gonna level on the next fight. Assuming it's an average of 600 XP. Just open the door. Just open the door. Try to get the combat. Open the door. Get the combat. No? Huh. There we go. Weird humanoids. We can take these guys, but they're not as good at don't think and experience. I think they're like, oh, we might not be able to take these guys. I shouldn't have been so confident. I'm actually going to change my mind. Now we're good. Yeah, much better. Yeah, not good XP though. Alright, one more time, Willa. I believe in you. You have such a curly mop of hair. Depth perception sucks though. Alright, so we need to not fuck around with these. I always end up fucking around with these. Yeah. No fucking around with those. Just get the experience and get out before they kill you. Poison you, more like. 400 XP, so she should do the thing now. Certain of Stunner. Yeah! Ooh, and we got a mace that we can identify. Okay, have I am not certain. I think I am certain that I have done this, at least. There we go, Will has just done the thing. Okay, I know where I am. I bet I do that every time I come in. I don't know if I've done this before. Ah, yeah, I have. Who's next? I think Malarkey's next. I looked at all of them. All I remember is that Lemmy Get That had like 8,000 left to go, so he still had plenty. Yikes, and Lemmy Get That had plenty of time. Being level 7 is good. as you can see, we're moving around this floor pretty well, pretty effectively. We're able to do a lot of the floor before we have to bail, which means that once we get, I don't know, more people to level 8, maybe once I'm like, yikes, and let me get up to level 8, we'll try it the next floor. But I don't think I'm really ready for the next floor until I'm level 9. It probably comes down to try again's uh, spell count, spell slots, which is why we have One Eye Willa. The more black spell slots we have, basically, the longer we can adventure. Okay, so we've done this whole floor. I know the whole floor. If there's a second item, it's through a locked, it's through a hidden door that I have not discovered. So, why don't I account for that? There we go. Okay. I don't love it that there's not always wait a minute. I don't love it that there's not always like a chest or something. Something in these rooms. I don't mind it. I would just like it if like there were a pickup. Like I understand this is the first game in the series. Shit. And that if I want the things I'm talking about, I want them to be in the second game. I want them to be in my game. But I do wish that every time you found a room, there were even just a low percentage chance that there were like a potion on the ground. Like, a heal spell, or an antidote, or something to deal with this fucking paralysis that I can't deal with. I don't know if she's gonna keep getting XP if I keep going, but I am gonna keep going. Ah! Oh, I didn't know that was a thing that could happen. So don't walk back into it. Was that because I searched the... Okay. No, it wasn't. Huh. The floor... It tells you if you touch the floor, if you interact with the floor, it tells you that that's coming right there. That's cool. Oh, I messed up. Fortunately, my build... Okay, this is my last fight. We have to run. Yeah, we have to run, no matter how this plays out. Like this turn, basically. That's my last AoE spell, so it's time to turn the hell around. Man, I messed up by falling into that hole twice, didn't I? I don't remember how to get back, though. This is... yeah, like this. I wonder if that's always there. This is the wrong way. I don't know if Malarkey's getting experience, but Malarkey might have just made it so that I have to bring one of my other people back to life. Love this stuff. Kicking that ass. Okay. All that's left to do for me now is to open a strategy guide or a walkthrough and make sure that I didn't miss anything on the map. But no, we just have to walk around on that level for a little while. I have to be able to survive on that level without stupid stuff like this happening, which means that we're gonna just spend some time, just work on it. I do not have enough money for... Thank you. That could have been a pain in the ass. Alright, try again. Eh, we like all of that. The spell point, spell point, spell point, 2 spell points, new spells. We like that. Okay. Ba, 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 ba. Nice. Oh, another level, actually. 2 levels is even better. And go ahead and give Malarkey their spells back. Go ahead and let him 1, 2, 3, 4 times his 12 HP at least. There you go, pal. Get you some HP back. Waste my money. Alright, still need 1500 GP. We start over, but we still need 1500 GP. Alright. And Yikes is going to be replaced by Malarkey because Malarkey has more HP at the moment. Significantly better AC as well. So Malarkey goes in the front row, baby. Okay. And then what we do is that was feeling like stuff we've never explored before. So I'm gonna see if I can find that again. That felt like a corridor I've never been down. I think it was like right here. Maybe here? Yeah, if you're tapping on the walls like I'm doing, I would have found where the floor fell out by tapping on the walls like this. Because you can find yeah, you can find the secret walls that way. That's cool. I approve. Well designed, guys. Oh, wait. I don't use the spell undead enough. Oh, you have another AoE ability? Nice. We can do this 3 times, and you can do it 0 times. So you still got another level to gain. Do it. Show them how it's done. Oh, that's great. Okay, so I wasted a spell slot because Turn Undead killed them all in one hit. I didn't see that coming at all. Okay, onward. We return to the primary hallway to see if I can find that secret spot again. And I think one way that I could do that, I could look for that secret spot, is I could come in here and I could open D's nuts. And I can cast a spell, and he has it. Doom Epic. Oh wait, no, this is... Wow. That's not what I was looking for. Try again. Might have it. What's it called? No. It's gonna be Malarkey. And it's called Light. Calfo. No. It's called... Oh, yeah, it's just Light. Light that follows the party and reveals secret doors. Yeah. I don't know how long it's gonna follow us. What the fuck? Cast it. Swing. An encounter. Priests. Well, I don't mind if I do, sirs. Be honest with you, I don't mind if I do. Let me get that. Is starting to whoop ass. D's nuts is getting there. Actually, D's nuts is even better. He's got more HP. 25 jeeps. There we go. Into... Oh, wait, we've been in here before. We can't see on the other side. Oh, look at that. It shows me the map. An encounter. Leather-clad men, 3 priest sickles. Oh no, those leather-clad men are a problem. The priests I'm not so worried about, unless they decide to hit Willa for, 7 damage. Malarkey has leveled. Fantastic. that means that we're at about 2,000 of the 6,000 that we needed. So that means that Willa is going to be our next level. So we can run around down here. We don't need Malarkey to go back until her spell slots are empty. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, shit. I should be able to do this. How about if I do it like this? Not quite. But no poison, so it worked. For this turn. For that round. Hey! Inspect. No trap. Open. Yay! 30 gold's not a lot. Okay, that spell's already turned off. But I get the whole map. That's convenient. I no longer even know where the hell I am. Okay, now I know where I am. Yeah, this for whatever reason doesn't draw on the map as you walk through it. There must be a darkness on the other side that I don't know how to get to. Or a secret wall, maybe? There's an encounter right here I found. Come on, Willa, you can do it. Oh, this is bad. No. Yes. Okay. Last time that happened. Thank you, Malarkey. Yikes, I'm gonna need you to be better, man. You're fucking useless. Which way is out of here? Rabbits? That sounds like some bullshit I'm not worried about. So, what we're gonna do is treat this like it's the most dangerous thing we've run across yet. Yeah, 1 HP. That's what I wanted to happen. Vorpal bunnies, they're called. Great. Dead is what they are now. Ooh, good XP. Really good XP, actually. Gas bomb, gas bomb. 110, that's really good. Okay, glad that happened. All of that was good for me. This is... Oh. Leather-clad men. 1 robed man. 4 weird humanoids. A one-eyed Willow leveled. So next should be D's nuts. Like if I'm just guessing. Let me get that. Says let me get that. Let me get that booty. And highwayman. Yeah, whatever. Mahalito and Halito. Foosh. Plap. Hua. Highwayman fleas. Ow. Ow. 6 damage is not a little amount. Goodbye, highwayman. Or whoever. Robed man. There are 2 remaining highwaymen, and we should be able to take them. Come on, let me get that. Yeah, boy! That's what I'm talking about. We need to get the hell out of here. We need to turn around. That's a lot of XP. Want a lot of gold, but we need to get out of here. It's time to leave. I'm certain that I haven't explored the way I wanted, but I'm also certain that if we don't leave now, somebody's gonna die. Okay. I'll go and find out who's next to level 2. Make sure I spend all of Malarkey's spell points before I come back. Or actually, before I leave. Hi guys, I have bad news for you. Since I keep my cleric in the front row, um, yeah, I can do that from the front row. Foosh. Goodbye. It didn't do as much as I wanted it to, but we didn't take very much damage, if any. Bye. See you in the afterlife. Oh no, I won't. Now I will. Good job, Lemmy. You're the best. You're the best level 7 fighter I've got in the party right now. The only level 7 fighter I've got in the party right now. Alright, here we go, Malarkey. Cast that shit. 1, 2, 3. What? You're out. You don't have another one, do you? You don't have like a bigger heal yet? Well, we're going to have to work on that, sweet cheeks. Alright, here we go. In Malarkey. Ba 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 ba. Lamilwa. Try again. It's gonna take 8,000. Alright, Will, you did it. You leveled it again. Okay. Lemmy has got 4k. D's Nuts has got 4k. Malarkey again in 16. Yikes in 3. 76 for Lemmy. Try again. And Willa is at 1,000. So we're going to be back pretty soon for Willa. Maybe 2-3 fights. That's cool. All of this is great. The faster Willa gets up to speed, the faster we can burn through this damn dungeon and start looking at the next level. We can get down to level 3. We can make that manageable. Then we can gain even more XP, and Willa and anybody that we have to replace her with gains that much faster. They grow up that much faster. And we get that much money, that much more money per kill, per fight. And that's what we really want, is as much money and XP per fight as we can get. Huh, I thought I would have gotten into a fight by now. Well, what I'm doing is insane. But I committed to coming down here, so let's go get lost. Shit. Okay, back up off of that, please. Didn't know that was gonna happen. Okay. Anyway. Please don't do that again. Oh no. Somebody knew that was coming. It was not me. Shit, this 3rd floor. We're gonna die down here. And then I'm gonna have to friggin' start over. Cast spell. Yeah, we're in deep shit. we did damage. It's a good start. It's also a good start. Okay. How much experience did we get? 700 apiece. 800 apiece. 10 of those and we level again. Okay, I gotta get back to the... We should be able to handle this. No, don't do it the way I did it, though. Should be able to deal with this. Yeah. Alright, Willie leveled. Willa. Yeah, let's just go back before anything terrible happens. Oh boy. Huh. Turns out I remembered how that worked. That's good. Don't know where I'm going. Man, I really want to be able to beat that fucking... I'm gonna try it. You know what? I am. I'm gonna try it. After we come back here, we're gonna come back up here. We're gonna get all of our stuff. We're gonna do the thing. We're gonna have it do, and I'm doing it. I'm gonna try it. I hate it every time I do it that it doesn't work the way I want, but I'm trying it. Stabbles. Not a great level. Could have done better. Stabbles. Stabbles. Look at that. Lots of money. Enter the maze. That's amazing. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm trying it. I always hate the result, but I'm trying it. I'm doing it. Don't talk to me like that. You're not my dad. La 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 la, come here, guy. I'm gonna kick you in. Oh. You. Stand still. Of course it's both of them. Two of them for some reason. Doesn't make any sense. The ghost of Murphy. You don't make any sense. Okay. Minus AC. Dispel undead. Cuspel. Little fire. Little fire. Fight. Okay. Ow. Okay. One of them is taking damage. Alito. Alito. I don't understand. There we go. Let me get that can hurt it. There we go. Yes. Lots of damage. Damage is good. Damage is very good. This is gonna be so much XP, dudes. If we can survive it. Yes. Big damage. Big damage. Yes. Yes. Damage. Doing damage is good. Taking damage sucks. Basically gonna have to turn around and go right back to the surface after this, but we just dropped him, so I know I can do it, so maybe now I can just grind him. Shit, now we're just gonna waste a bunch of spells. $11. Ah. Mm. 2 hits for max damage is a lot of damage. Do that again. We are so close. Lame. One more time. Come on, one more turn and we got him. Mm. Oh, really? I believe in you guys. Not if he gets a crit on these nuts. That's gonna suck. Got him. Yay, got 2 of them. So, proof of concept. We're ready. It can be done. How much experience was that? 1,400. Yeah. Didn't mean to do that immediately. Didn't mean to do it at all. Okay. At least it's only one. We can take one. Comes right after these nuts, too. There we go. Can I take him, basically, can I take him 3 times in a row? Because if I can farm him with the spell slots that I do have, then we can farm him with the spell slots that we're going to get. And this is, frankly, faster, more reliable than grinding floor 3 or floor 2 while we're trying to get ready for floor 3. Because we're not ready for floor 3. This is 3 fights on floor 3, and it basically would take this long to get them to spawn. We can just drop him. Gain another level, and it should just only be faster. Gain a little bit of money in the process, and I should be able to have more AC next time I come down here. Should be able to go up there with 1,500 gold to spend. Got him. probably do it again. Now, is it only 700 XP for one of them? Yeah, cool. That's a fight. Oh, I didn't mean to do that again. I didn't mean to do that. See how it looks. Oh, if he's gonna surprise me, I don't really want to do this again. Yeah, I didn't mean to do it again. I was trying to confirm. Ah, yes, that's how much XP I got. That's not what happened. Okay, I get out of here. That was fruitful. We gained somebody to level 8. That matters. Okay, I don't remember. You walk until you hit the wall, and then right here is... an encounter. Bring it on, boys. I ain't scared. I ain't scared. You guys can probably kill us, actually. Oh, not if you don't get to fight back. Yikes. Bye. Okay, 100 XP's not really shit. Inspect. Open. Open. 80. Oh boy. Nope. These guys are mildly problematic. Well, not if they're gonna do that. Just wasted another spell slot. Well, I got a kill. So that works. It counts. Aw, yeah. Let's get the fuck out of here. There's supposed to be a fucking... door around here somewhere. Fine. Ouch. Let me out of here. Okay. I know where I am. Alright, well last time I was concerned about you guys, I burned up a bunch of spell slots, so this time I'm just gonna take you... Oh, come on. Deez, I really need you to not die from this little bullshit. Thank you. It'd be great if Lemmy wanted to level. Lemmy and Deez are right there. They gotta be so close. Ah, they're about 4,000 away, actually, now I think about it. Alright. Oopsie doopsie. Here we go. Upsie daisy. To the top level. Visit Der Inn. Alright. Market, or Malarkey. 6 HP's good, though. How you doing, yikes? 1 HP sucks. Level 8's great, though. Okay, you're... yeah, close. Oh, we're coming back in literally like 2 fights. It's fine. We can get those fights to happen by going through doors like this. That's one fight, so that's gonna be like 200. Yeah, 100 XP because they suck. Inspect, certainty, no trap. Who will open? Thank you. I guess I could have done like armor and stuff while I was back there. I could have like spent some of my money. Come on, you can do it. Give me a fight. You want some of this. I'm not so high level that you don't want any of it. That's just not how you do your random encounters. Bring it on, motherfucker. Bubbly slime. Oh, oh boy. Oh, you guys are gonna keep this tense, huh? You're gonna make this a fight? Oops, wrong button. Who will inspect? Certainty of poison needle. Who will disarm? Yes. Do it. Party receives 6 gold. You got it. Um, Bring it, bubbly slimes. Goodbye, Oh. Malarkey, you let me down in a big spot. Everybody's watching. 2 damage. 2 times for lots of damage. Starting to more consistently hit twice. Perfect. 27. That sucked for XP. I'm gonna have to go downstairs. Opened her chest. 40 gold. I'm gonna have to go downstairs to get those idiots to level. Opened the door. Opened the door. Breaking the law. Breaking the law. Alright, well, let's go downstairs. Don't really want to do that. They're gonna die if I do this. Why don't I heal them? I don't know. Kinda hadn't thought about it. That works. Now they have more health. Okay, now I gotta be careful. Because, oh, I'm on floor 2. Never mind. I don't want to go too far away. Because I kind of want to just turn around immediately and level them. So why am I getting so far away? Because there's a door right here. That's why. Hello, boys. Oh, you're zombies. I made a mistake. Good job. Good job, guys. Yes. We're getting better. Getting better at not dying. Open the chest. 40 gold. 6 GPs. Hey, look at that. Look at all those up signs. Alright. We're going to go back one more time. And then we're going to look at how much money I've got. Because I bet I got enough money to improve some... That's not back. That's forward. I bet you I've got enough money to improve some HPs, baby. And I bet I've also got enough money to buy some antidotes so that poison isn't a showstopper. Fuck you, you're dead now. Alright, who levels next?